This conference will now be recorded.
It's not just economic development, it's also IT.
See this attaboy, Shauna? Right out the window.
No, that was my.
I know it was, but I was blaming her.
Am I using new hardware?
So please don't go tell your neighbors that we messed this up to start. We're gonna,
Not right now.
never happened.
Okay, so. it's working. You might want to start over.
Is it ready now?
Yes.
I'd like to begin the process to open a public hearing procedure to adopt 3 zoning text amendments. I'm going to make a motion to open public hearing to discuss Article 2, Section 203, Article 6, 6.601 Y and O, changes related to detailed garages and accessory buildings. The second text amendment, Article 4, 4.03 C, Article 7, Sections 709 or 7.09 and 7.10, changes in conditional uses for commercial office retail district. Third one is Article 6, changes related to the signs in the commercial and residential districts. That is my motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. I will call for the vote to open the meeting. Colner, yes.
Schulte, yes.
Okay, the public hearing is now open. First, I'd like to ask the zoning department if this public hearing was published. It was on the website, and you can come up to the mic, Ms. Graffier, and confirm that this was published and how it was published.
Thank you, Chairman Kohler. Yes, the public hearing was published and advertised in the West Side Leader, and it has been posted on the township's website for inspection as well.
Thank you. So I would like to swear in anybody who intends to testify at this public hearing. Is there anybody besides you, Ms. Graffier? Okay, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in the matter now pending before the Copley Township Board of Trustees shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall know it? Very good. So, Ms. Graffier, would you proceed? We open the meeting for all 3 articles, but I'd like to handle them one at a time.
All right, thank you very much for your time this evening. On behalf of the Copley Township Zoning Commission, they're the applicant for the 3 proposed text amendments that we'll review this evening. The Zoning Commission has been working on these text amendments for over a year now. They began in June of 2020. From that point on, at their monthly meeting, which occurs every Thursday, the first Thursday of the month, they have been open to the public, receiving public feedback on those text amendments, as well as public discussion on each of the text proposals that you will see. Regarding the status of the text amendments that you see before you, on the following slide, you'll see that the Copley Township Zoning Commission accepted the formal applications for the 3 text amendments this evening on June 3rd, 2021. They made a motion to open the public hearing and then send the text amendments to Summit County Planning Commission for comment on July 1st of 2021. And then they motioned to recommend approval after discussion of all 3 text amendments to the Board of Trustees on August 5th of 2021. Additionally, the text amendments have been reviewed by Summit County Planning Commission. On June 4th, the text amendments were sent to the Planning Commission, upon which they motioned to recommend approval of all proposed text amendments with considerations to the provided comments that you will see in the presentation this evening on July 29th, 2021. From there, We submitted those the text amendments to the Board of Trustees for consideration in September, at a time of which the Board of Trustees motioned to set the public hearing for this evening. We hope that you will find that the information that you have this evening will allow you to make a decision, and we're happy to answer any additional questions that follow the applications tonight. With that being said, on the next slide, you'll see the first text amendment proposed for consideration. Again, this is Article 2, Section 2.03, Article 6, Section 6.01, 0 and Y. And we are looking at changes to accessory buildings. I'm primarily looking at the implementation of detached garages. When the Zoning Commission reviewed what their objectives and goals were for this proposed text amendment, they fell primarily in 4 categories. One was to make the existing text and regulation more flexible and more applicable to a larger number of parcels. Next was to really look at the mass to scale on what was permitted on smaller parcels and look at ways to improve stormwater management related to accessory buildings and structures. So the changes primarily include these 3 items. 1, we would like to include detached garages in the definition for accessory buildings. 2, we would like to recommend a decrease to the overall permitted square footage for accessory buildings on parcels on 1 acre or less. And 3, we would like to recommend an increase in the overall permitted square footage for accessory buildings on parcels greater than 1 acre. On the next slide, you'll see, in general, when we submit a text amendment application, there are a couple of questions that are asked of the applicant. Again, the applicant being the Copley Township Zoning Commission. The existing text, we believe, again, is unreasonable because for detached garages, the current text applies to those 5 acres and more where an additional square footage is granted. So the current text permits on 5 acres or more, 1,800 square feet for a detached garage and 450 square feet for an accessory building. However, what has become problematic and noticeable in the Board of Zoning Appeals is that this regulation actually only applies to less than 1% of parcels in the township total. So that's about 60 parcels that would qualify for these larger buildings. However, when the Board of Zoning Appeals, when we looked at the variances that have been submitted over the past 4.5 years, requests for oversized buildings accounted for 14 to 15% of the variances applications that we were seeing. So we're seeing that people would like larger buildings on those larger lots, 1 acre or more. Primarily, you're seeing they would like oversized, the request came in oversized detached garages, but as of most recently, a trend that we're starting to see since 2020 are on parcels that used to be farmland that have a barn, which is typically an agricultural use. When it was built, it was an agricultural building. Now, whoever has the land, they're not farming the land, but they want to be able to use that structure. So they have to bring that structure into compliance to be able to use it as a detached building. And so in order to do that, they have to do basically a barn conversion into a detached garage, and they're oversized, so they're seeking variances to keep that. What's most notable of the variance applications that you see here listed on the screen, all of those variance applications have been approved. So the BZA, they are approving all of the requests for this item that's coming before them.
Sean,
So-
I don't want to interrupt, but,
Yeah.
but I'm looking at the 2022 barn conversions.
Mhm.
So in those cases, there's an existing structure on those properties. And instead of storing their tractor in there, they want to put their car in there.
Right.
And the township gets involved in that decision?
Correct, because so they did not
Yes.
they did not receive a permit for a barn. So you don't need to pay for a permit when you do an agricultural use and you're signing an affidavit that says, I swear to you that I'm only using this for agricultural purposes. So most of those, if they were from 1949 forward, they're going to have that agricultural affidavit typically on file. So it runs with the land. Also, we see when someone goes to sell their lot, sometimes we'll get calls from the real estate agent or their surveyor or appraiser, and they want to know if this is in compliance. Are these buildings, do they meet regulations?
All right,
So-
sorry to interrupt, but thanks.
Yeah,
for getting me up to
absolutely.
speed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was also a question that Summit County Planning Commission had as well. So it's not that the land that it's on is in non-conforming use, but the structure itself would be non-conforming because it's not being used as it was permitted for. The item that you see here, just the image, it shows you essentially, this is in the residential medium density district, a 5.6 acre lot. It shows you a detached garage at about 2445 square feet. That's the larger orange square that you see here. And then an accessory building at 555 square feet. This would be based on the new regulation. And as you can see, it's still only about a 2% rear land coverage. So the mass to scale on a parcel this size with the updated regulation on which we're proposing is 3,000 square feet in total for 2 structures combined. Again, that isn't a significant mass to scale on a parcel that size. Next, on the next slide, you'll see that the text in general also kind of leans to the other side, the update to the regulation. The existing text really doesn't provide for adequate mass to scale on parcels 1 acre or less. So within the township, the majority of our parcels are in a platted subdivision, 1 acre or less, typically 0.35 to 0.75 in total. And they're permitted the same square footage as someone with 2 acres, 3 acres, 4 acres, 5 acres currently. And as you can see, the mass to scale on this parcel using that similar analogy is about a 28% rear land coverage. So what we're looking at is the culmination of these larger buildings back to back on smaller parcels really does start creating a stormwater issue because they're not necessarily putting in drains, they're not downspouting, it's not built to the same construction standard as a home. So it really can start affecting as a culmination if you're building these side by side. So we believe also that the proposed updates, again, will help better regulate on those smaller parcels, mass to scale, and stormwater management. We did a kind of a fun, I'll consider it just like a little geek out with numbers, and I thought it was really fascinating. We took all of the parcels in the township and we did a build out scenario based on the new regulations. And based on the new regulations, if everyone built what they could build under the new standard, we would actually preserve about 27 acres of green space, just because the number of smaller parcels is so much greater. And the goal is to limit the square footage there while, again, allowing flexibility and additional applicability on those larger parcels. So I thought it was pretty fun. Next, you'll see just a general update for the definitions that go with this proposal. Just changing accessory building or use, really changing it to include, but not limited to, detached garages, sheds, gazebos, and other similar buildings. Currently, detached garages have their own section, so we're just recommending that that structure be added into the existing use, the existing definition of an accessory building. Just a small change to the definition for building. Instead of chattel, it just becomes personal property. That means whatever you own, you can put in that building. And then next, garage private would move to a building so that it matches the accessory building definition as well, which may be detached from the main building or may be a portion of the building. So those are just small updates to make the language and definition consistent of adding a detached garage as one of the accessory buildings that you can have. Next is just a general overview. For the record, a full copy of the text has been presented to the Board of Trustees, and this is a review of that text. Again, under Article 6, Section 6.01, Supplemental Regulations, we are proposing the following changes. You'll see them highlighted and outlined in red and redlined as well. Starting with the foundation area of an accessory building will not exceed 450 square feet, and 1 accessory building shall be permitted per lot. By allowing detached garages to now be an accessory building, you can have 2 accessory buildings per lot, and then you as the landowner get to choose how you use the square footage. So if you can have 2 accessory buildings on lots up to including 1 acre, but the combined total of those accessory buildings cannot exceed 900 square feet. So you can have a 700 square foot detached garage and a 200 square foot shed if you want. You could have 2 350 2 450 square foot detached garages if you want. You know, it's your property to decide how you want to designate the square footage of those 2 buildings. Next, accessory buildings on lots exceeding 1 acre shall not have a combined total square foot of over 3,000 square feet. So again, you can have up to 2 accessory buildings total. You might choose to use it for a 2,500 square foot detached garage and a 500 square foot accessory building, but you as the property owner get to determine how you're using that square footage. Are there any questions so far? That's pretty much the.
And of course, if somebody wanted a larger building, either on a lot size under an acre or over an acre, they wanted a bigger structure, they can go through the BZA and apply.
They can apply.
And that allows us an avenue for their neighbors to come in here and voice an opinion, and also to make sure the building's being constructed properly,
Yeah.
enhancing the property. Okay,
Absolutely.
all right.
Yeah. Next, detached garages may be located to the side of the principal building and shall be located no closer than 15 feet from the side property line. So this is consistent with the current language. We're just moving it under accessory buildings. The next item is an addition. In the fact, the following is an addition. The height of an accessory building shall not exceed 5 feet above the principal structure or 25 feet, whichever is greater. So the 5 feet above the principal structure is the new clause in that regulation that the zoning commission wanted to put in. And then the 25 feet is the existing regulation. And then there was a lot of discussion about this, and this is the text that the zoning commission felt most comfortable including, that an accessory building may be subject to review by Summit Soil and Water Conservation District. And really what that's saying, and we'll talk about this here in a moment when we talk about the public feedback that we received. If you are on a lot that's a 1/4 acre and you want to build a 900 square foot detached garage right next, you can build that 5 feet from your neighbor's property line. But let's say this is an area of the township that's really has a lot of flooding that happens, or the neighbors are concerned about that. We could ask Summit Soil and Water to take a look at the site plan and really recommend best location, really recommend how to drain their downspouts, just some additional purview that our department would be able to go for them as a resource for. It's not required, and it's not a condition of the permit. It's just another resource that the township would have to allow us to really help accommodate the location that they'd like to place it and any adjacent property owner concerns as well. Next, the only change that was to the existing Y private garage is that we're removing unattached. So this section only refers to attached garages, and there's nothing changed. A private attached garage shall not have an area over 900 square feet. Next, again, this was sent to the Summit County Planning Commission for their review. They do recommend approval. The 2 items that they discussed, Mr. Klein and myself were present at their hearing, and they discussed these 2 primary items for consideration. The first, do we believe or have we considered the size of detached buildings and the potential to utilize the structures to operate a business? Do larger buildings encourage illegal home businesses such as auto repair? So we had a pretty significant conversation about that, as well as the zoning commission. So you'll see the zoning commission's discussion about the planning commission's recommendations. And in general, we discussed that the size of the detached building might limit the scope of a business, but most likely would not deter someone if they wanted to have a home business. So staff, we always seek the opportunities to assist people who are not in compliance, especially with home-based businesses, if there are ways to help them get into compliance. But I think Mr. Klein would also agree, we did quite a significant visitation schedule around the township this summer to home-based businesses that were seeking COVID relief funds. And we were just asked to verify if those businesses were operating in Copley. And we found, unfortunately, probably 15 to 20 of those businesses were home-based businesses that did not have a home occupation permit. But the good thing that we found is that about 90 to 95% of those actually qualify for a home occupation permit. So they were able to come into compliance pretty easily. Next, the planning commission discussed if the text should read that a maximum of 2 accessory buildings of only one would be a detached garage. And then the zoning commission discussed that the goal of that one number is to allow greater flexibility to the landowner to decide what type of structure they want and how many of those they want. The only structure that is currently not permitted under our accessory buildings are accessory dwelling units. But with that exception, other than that, you can have detached garages, you can have planting sheds, you can have woodworking. I don't know what this is like the guy question. What do you need all these buildings for? Like whatever you want to do in them, except run an illegal business or have an accessory dwelling unit. So those were the 2 primary questions that came about as a result of the planning commission. Again, they had no objections. They were just wondering if we had considered those 2. And so the zoning commission did thoroughly talk about those. So that does conclude our presentation regarding Article 2, Section 2.03 and Article 6, Section 6.01, O and Y.
Have we turned down any applications for auxiliary structures at all recently? I mean, what's our history?
You had them up on, she had a list of them that were
Well,
approved.
yeah, you had all
Yeah.
the ones approved. I'm just curious if we've turned anything down.
I can't recall that we've ever turned one down. We will meet with an applicant if they're wanting something above and beyond what's required. And then typically we'll have a very honest and transparent conversation with them. You know, what do you want to use this for? You know, what is kind of the hardship that you're asking for a variance for? And then sometimes the applicant will say, oh, never mind, we're just going to go with 900 square feet. But in all cases that they have come before the BZA for a variance, it has been granted.
Okay. On the attached garages, limiting the attached garages to 900 square feet. So that's actually reducing the capability of, that would be a normal size 3-car garage, basically, correct?
Correct.
15 foot wide, 20 foot
Right.
deep, 3 stalls. I would think I know there's been some history there where people are building homes and they have a larger than a standard 3-car attached garage.
Mhm.
And that's generated a lot of business for the BZA. Have we ever turned that down?
I can only recall, and I can only speak to the last 3.5 years, 4 years that I've been here, where we have had one request for an attached garage and that was approved. There has been some flexibility in that, and I'm trying to think of a case in particular where they could have an attached garage. They did 900 square feet. And then essentially what they did was they just offset the detached garage with like a walkway.
Okay.
But they connected the walkway to the house and then they were able to use their detached garage square footage for that too. And the zoning commission did discuss that pretty in a lot of detail as well. Ms. McPherson with the Architectural Review Board came and just kind of discussed her findings. But what they found was with 900 square feet being a 3-car plus garage, that really covers, again, out of the 6,000 parcels in the township, about 5,600 are less than 1 acre and really most likely wouldn't even qualify as far as zoning setbacks for a larger garage on that acreage.
Any other questions?
No, it seems like we're, to a large extent, I'm on board with all this, but the change to Y, where you have a 5-acre parcel, and I'm not sure how many more 5-acre parcels we have yet to be developed, where this would come up.
She mentioned that there was like 60.
60, so the current regulation only applies to about
Okay.
60 parcels in the township. And then by opening it up, it would account for, I believe it ended up being about 13% of the parcels in the township. It would add about another 100 parcels that are over 1 acre. Again, or 400 parcels, I'm sorry, the majority, 5,600 being less than 1 acre in the township.
But this change to Y to take away the greater than 5 acres, for an 1,800 square foot attached garage would apply to a few dozen properties, in theory.
So-
We're basically limiting down what somebody could do on an attached in Y, correct?
No, we're not making any changes to the attached. The attached stays the same. The,
Okay.
what we changed was just detached, and basically what we did, Mr. Schulte, is
Oh,
we
now I
took
read
it.
it. Now I read it.
Yeah.
I see the in there. It's crossed out.
Yeah.
Sorry, my eyes aren't very sharp.
No, we
Thank you.
opened it up a
Yeah.
lot, from 5 acres
Okay.
to now over 1 acre.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
You know, I'll just add, anything that's, 5, 10 acres can be subdivided into 3 acres and 2 acres. So, we have a limited number of these larger acre parcels available. And so we made it number.
Right.
We could apply a lot more parcels.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions?
Good.
Okay. So is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this text amendment? Give you some time to think.
Sounds like a reasonable.
If you, I'm sorry, Mr. Henry, if you want to make you have to come to the podium, state your name and address. Change your mind? You want-
It doesn't matter.
The reason for that, it has to be recorded on the mic. So if you'd like to come up and speak in favor, you're more than welcome. All right. I'll ask one more time. Is there anybody who would like to come up and speak in favor of the proposed text amendment? Okay. Is there anybody who would like to speak in opposition to the text amendment? I'll ask one more time. Is there anybody that would like to speak in opposition to the text amendment? Okay. Yeah. Is that a rule?
Yeah.
It is a rule? All right, I'll ask a third.
Good thing you showed up.
Yeah.
It's not too late. One more ask.
I did not know if that was a Scott rule or a rule. So I'll go back. Does anybody want to speak in favor of the text amendment? And to add a third to the other, does anybody want to speak in opposition to the text amendment? Okay. Thank you. So, Mr. Kafir, do I need to close the public hearing for this text amendment and open another one? We're open for all three of them now, correct?
Correct, but we have received some comments from the public.
Okay, we want,
regarding that.
okay, please
Um,
proceed with those as well.
Okay, thank you. We
I'm
just.
sorry I skipped over that. I did.
Oh, no, that's
Okay.
okay. We did receive a couple of comments, and again, since we have been working on this, we have tried to engage the public for their participation. We have met with the property owner. They are, they reside on a private drive. They have large acreage. They are wanting to seek a way that larger detached buildings can be built without having to require variances. And that's another pretty important note as well. Anytime that we can avoid variances in the township, that's really our goal. So the BZA, so if we're seeing things that are coming over and over again, that just means that's kind of like where the community would like to establish itself and what the appetite of the community has. So if the appetite of the community is for these larger buildings on smaller than less than 5 acres, without having to keep granting variances over and over again, we'd rather just make it a conforming use. We also received 3 to 4 phone calls within the past 6 months from property owners in various parts of the township who've indicated that they want to build a detached garage. What they're seeking doesn't meet the existing requirement. So we've discussed that this proposed text amendment is in process. We couldn't guarantee what the result of it was, but they were certainly in favor of not having to seek a variance if what they were requesting could fall within the new regulations. And then last year, we worked with a property owner in Bathview Estates neighborhood who they were in the situation, they're on a smaller lot, they're on septic and well, they have flooding problems in their backyard. Their neighbor did build a 900 square foot detached garage 5 feet from their property line. They had been original builders of the house. They've been established members of Copley for a very long time. They were very upset And so they understood that the regulation permitted them to do that, but they did request that we look into a decrease of the size of accessory buildings on parcels less than 1 acre. So we have been looking at this definitely from both sides.
Okay, any other comments?
No, just, I think it's a nice presentation. I think it's a nice balanced approach. I think it tries to get the township out of the middle of things where we don't need to be.
So the
And I like-
discussion will come for that part. Will come during the voting session. We'll close the meeting.
Sorry.
So we'll close the meeting and then, so what I'd like to do, Mr. Fear, and tell me if I'm doing this incorrectly, I'd like to close the, we'll take a vote to close the public hearing for this text amendment. And then we'll go on to number 2. Is that all right? Okay. So I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing for the first text amendment, which concerns Article 2, Section 2.03, Article 6, Section 6.01, O and Y. Okay. All in favor? Is it a roll or a vote? Do we know? Okay, a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So that's closed. We'll go on to the next on your agenda, please.
Would you?
Yes. I thought we'd discuss them all at the same time. Yeah, that's what I'd like to do. Is that all right with you?
Yeah.
Okay. So the next one is concerning Article 4, 4.03C, Article 7, Sections 7.09 and 7.10 related to the changes of conditional uses for commercial, office/retail district.
Thank you very much. On the next slide, you'll see, again, the applicant is Copley Township Zoning Commission. We have been working on this text amendment since approximately September of 2021. And what you will see here is a proposal for a new conditional use in the commercial office retail district. Again, the update would be for Article 4, Section 4.03C, Article 7, Section 7.09 and 7.10. And the zoning commission is proposing changes for the purpose of adding the following conditional use, which would be listed as retail as a permitted use in the commercial neighborhood district. And so in general, the permitted uses in the commercial neighborhood retail district include retail goods and services established on relatively small lots that provide goods and services or merchandise directly to residents or the immediate nearby neighbors. The goods and services can be enjoyed for immediate use or purchased and removed from the property. And so those, again, those generally permitted uses in the commercial neighborhood retail district would be a conditional use in the commercial office retail district. And what brought about this, this really started, we started examining this. On the next slide, you'll see in 2018 and 19, when we were looking at the comprehensive land use plan, what really started to stand out was our existing commercial office retail district, how that land was being used, whether it was conforming, non-conforming, or vacant. We identified 5 existing C&R districts. You'll see them circled there in pink. Well, four areas, 5 parcels of land. Circled in pink, First Rothrock Road, approximately 2.4 acres. It's currently vacant land and residential, so it's not conforming. It's not being used to its highest and best use of commercial office or commercial neighborhood retail land. Next on Commerce Drive, we have about 2.14 acres. Again, this is vacant land. It's not being utilized for commercial neighborhood retail purposes. It's vacant. South Cleveland Maslin Road, approximately 5 acres and 3.39 acres. Again, we have on the Wedding Barn, residential use and vacant land, an opportunity to get that to the highest and best use as well. And then Copley Road, we have approximately 2 acres. And that's probably the truest form of commercial neighborhood retail. We have a multi-tenant retail building and a single tenant retail building on Copley Road. Next, we looked at how the commercial office retail district land was being used. And what we really found was about 40% of the COR land in Copley, again, is underutilized land or non-conforming. So between the CNR, which isn't in itself performing to highest and best, and COR, there's really an opportunity to combine those. Again, keeping the same intent of the land use in both districts and trying to bring those to their highest and best value. Currently, small retail of 2,500 square feet is permitted ancillary to office space in the COR. So that means that you can build a commercial building that's office, and then you can add up to 2,500 square feet of retail that's ancillary to that office, and that's permitted. So that would remain. So if we had an applicant that wanted to come in and develop a 5,000 square foot office building, and then they wanted to add 2,500 square feet of retail space, it's permitted. They would not need to go through the conditional use process. They would just need to do the standard site plan review. So we're not taking that away. So that still remains a permitted use. But what we did find in most, in particular, Mr. Klein and I, we met with a client, and they had a fantastic use proposed for a commercial office retail space in Copley. But their office space wasn't really compatible to the retail space they wanted. Essentially what they wanted was a 10,000 square foot office space for their headquarters. And then they wanted to have a 10,000 square foot showroom for their products. And so that's not permitted in the COR district, so that would become a conditional use. Sometimes banks, they don't really look favorably upon conditional uses because it's looked at as a non-conforming use. So anything that we can do to try to get that to the highest and best use, again, that's what we would like to do. So again, both of the land in the COR and the CNR is underutilized. The update would now permit the flexible use of the commercial office retail district with commercial neighborhood retail uses, really while still upholding the integrity and the primary use of that district. The update would promote the flexible design and land use for multi-tenant buildings. And that's really what we're seeing now in multi-tenant buildings. We look a lot of times at Heritage Woods, the new retail building that's there. That's about a 14,000 square foot retail building. Multi-tenant, some of those tenants are retail, some of those tenants are office. So they have an office, a med spa, which would be considered office for us. It's a medical spa, but they wouldn't be allowed to permit, they wouldn't be permitted to have that building in the COR district as the standards are today. So with that, you'll see just the general update that we're looking at on the next screen. Article 4, commercial districts. We're just proposing to add a number 10, which would read conditionally permitted uses retail as a permitted use in the commercial neighborhood retail district. And what that means is that someone would have to open up a major site plan before the Architectural Review Board. And then they would have to go before the Board of Zoning Appeals under the conditional uses, and they would have to also be granted a conditional use for this new conditional use as well. So there are 2 reviews that an applicant would go through. In Article 7, it's just an administrative error. We removed office use. Office use is already permitted in the COR. It just was a leftover, I believe, from an update that they had done previously. And we just replaced that O with the new retail as a permitted use in the CNR district. So you'll see here just 2 real examples. Again, that's in Copley Township. That's a multi-tenant building. It combines retail and office, as well as the multi-tenant building here below. That's most likely in Edward Jones, which is office, and then possibly a retail store connected to it. The conditions are found on the next screen. So essentially when the Board of Zoning Appeals would look at an applicant for conditional use, they would have to present a full site plan to the BZA. Then they would have to present a site plan that meets all 4 of these conditions as well. So the first condition would be that it would provide for the construction of a retail building for the purpose of permitted uses as identified in the CNR district in advance of uses identified in the COR district. So they would be permitted to build that building that you see up here, 14,000 square foot building, and then they would be permitted to put their retail uses in first. The retail use may be established prior to the office use where that site plan includes the future build opportunity for office use, which is greater than 50% of the square foot dedicated to the retail use. So in this example, if this is a 10,000 square foot building on the bottom here. They could do a 5,000 square foot retail tenant. They can move the retail tenant in now. And then the remaining 5,000 square foot would have to be reserved specifically for office. So they have to show that site plan to the Architectural Review Board and to the Board of Zoning Appeals, showing them that that's reserved for that office space in the future. The maximum square footage for a single tenant retail building would be 7,000 square feet. Again, they could do 4,000 square feet retail first, and then they would have to have an opportunity for 3,000 square feet of office space. And then the maximum square footage for a multi-tenant, a retail building would be 12,000 square feet. The fourth condition is that all structures and activity areas must be located 100 feet from all property lines when located adjacent to a residential district, and that's consistent with other conditional uses in the zoning resolution. Again, Summit County Planning Commission, they did review this. They had no additional comments, and they did recommend approval of the proposed text amendment.
When it says all activity has to be 100 feet from any residential district if it's next door, would that include parking?
It would. Mhm.
Okay.
So their entire footprint would have to be 100 feet from.
Driveways, parking,
Right.
everything, 100 foot. Okay.
And that's also pretty consistent with the regulations for some of our mixed-use compact development districts as well, where they look at the footprint of the project and then it's from the project boundaries, which are the property.
Okay. This is the part that ask any more questions. Are you ready for the questions? Okay,
Sorry to jump the gun.
that's okay. Get you in line sooner or later. So I'll ask the public, is there anybody that wants to speak in favor of this text amendment? And I'm going to do it quickly. Anybody want to speak in favor of the text amendment? And for a third time, is there anybody who would like to speak in favor of the text amendment? Okay. Is there anybody who would like to speak in opposition of the text amendment? Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition of the text amendment?
I just have a question.
Stand by here.
Ooh,
It sounded like somebody from, ma'am?
yep,
Okay, we normally don't take comments virtually, but because you were able to log in, we'll do so. Can you please state your name and address?
yes,
We have to- do you want to speak in opposition or in favor of?
I just have a question.
Okay, I'm sorry, that part, we can't do that part right now. There are strict regulations on how the hearings have to proceed. So I
Okay.
do apologize. Is there a way to get her question in?
It's in the chat room.
After you do this, after the third time, not opposition, then she can answer.
Okay, okay. So for the third time, is there anybody who would like to speak in opposition to the text amendment? Okay, hearing none. Ma'am, would you please state your name and address?
It's Beth Leipold, Leipold, and I'm at 2301 South Cleveland Maslin Road.
What is your question, ma'am?
I just wanted to know the address on South Cleveland Maslin Road that is not the wedding barn.
I couldn't hear that.
What is the address of the other property on South Cleveland Maslin Road that is not the wedding barn?
Ms. Graffier is looking for that right now.
It's the property adjacent to, right across the street from the wedding barn.
The Hickory Sticks?
No,
No.
it's currently, there's a house, a barn, and then
Oh.
vacant land.
Used to be the plumber's place. Just south, across Summit Road.
Correct, yes.
Okay, yeah, it used to be a plumbing distributorship. Do you know which property she's talking about, ma'am?
Is that where the community garden used to be?
Yes, it's contiguous to the community garden. It's an old barn that's mostly covered with vegetation now.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know the address?
I don't know the address. I believe it's a parcel.
Don't know the address, ma'am. Does that
I
answer
know
the
it's-
question?
Yeah, it's about 2 doors away from me.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. Yeah, there was nobody speaking for or against. Are there any other comments at this time? Then I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing for the text amendment concerning Article 4, Section 4.03C, Article 7, Section 7.09, and 7.10.
Mr.
Second,
Coleman,
Schulte.
Yes, ma'am.
would you like the two public?
Yes, thank you for interrupting. Yes, was there any written comments or comments from the public?
We've received consistent comments from approximately 2,000 to present day from a property owner who has commercial office retail district zoned land on Medina Road. And they have been actively trying to work with the township to seek ways to allow more flexibility in the commercial office retail district. So we have been discussing for several decades on maybe how to do that. So this might present an opportunity as well. And then again, just referencing the developer that Mr. Klein and I met with in June of 2021, who was seeking to do their headquarters with the same amount of retail space below.
Okay,
That concludes the comments.
all right, thank you.
Can I interrupt again? Sorry.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. I've not done this before, so
I have only done it once, as you can plainly see.
I apologize. I'm not comfortable with really what you're talking about. As I said, I live 2 doors north of that, and I'm not really sure I know what is going to actually end up going in there and how it's going to affect my property values.
Would you like me to?
Yes, ma'am. Well, a couple things. I apologize. We did close that section of the hearing. And as I said, there are strict regulations on how the public hearing goes. But Ms. Kafir is indicating that she can answer that question. So we'll give
Okay.
the floor back to Ms. Kafir.
Thank you.
Ms. Leopold, so there would be absolutely no changes to the land and the way that it's zoned adjacent to you. The land that's currently zoned is commercial neighborhood retail. And so we're proposing no changes to commercial neighborhood retail. The change is being proposed to commercial office retail, simply to allow the uses that are in the neighborhood retail district conditionally there. So nothing would be changed on the parcels that you're looking at, that you're adjacent to.
Okay, so it'll still be commercial neighborhood retail.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Sorry
welcome.
to be out
No,
of.
you're doing fine. Thank you.
Mhm.
And Mr. Schulte has indicated he had a question or comment as well.
Shauna, so these regulations, the 2 comments you received from the public that you referenced just now, these changes would make both of those landowners, it would ease the development of their property in both cases?
It would have, it would give more flexibility to the development of
Okay.
that.
Okay.
All right. So we have a motion, a second to close the public hearing for this text amendment.
Jim second.
It's already seconded. I'll call for the vote.
Russell, yes.
Kohler, yes.
Schulte, yes.
All right, thank you. So now we're on to item number 3, which is the changes related to the signs in commercial and residential districts. Mr. Kafir, would you like to take it from here?
Absolutely. So the final text amendment that you'll see before you is a general update to Article 8 sign regulations. 95% of the updates are textual, simply aligning the language that you find in the order that you find it in commercial with the way that you will find it in residential. So we just made the titles the same. We changed some numbers to letters just to make it more consistent throughout the document. There were 3 small updates that we are proposing changes to on behalf of the zoning resolution. The first one is the addition of a temporary contractor identification sign. The township has been working internally to find a way to classify these signs that are being used specifically on residential properties where contractors are doing work there. They're putting in their yard sign and finding a way to allow our residents to do that within the regulations. Next is just an increased square footage for electronic message centers. Currently, there's a way that you can calculate electronic message centers one way in the zoning resolution, and then it's calculated a different way in the zoning resolution. So we're just making it consistent across the board, as well as the measurement of window area for window signs. It's calculated one way in one part and another way in one part. So we're just making that consistent again. On the next slide, you'll just see the updated language for Article 8, temporary signs permitted in all districts without a zoning certificate. Currently, letter H, temporary signs, 1, temporary signs used for non-commercial messages, 2, temporary signs used as real estate signs, and then 3, temporary signs displaying a commercial message used to identify contractors actively conducting work on the premise. When we talked about adding that contractor identification sign, it came about, we do not permit signs inside of the right of way, and every so often our office, service department, police department will kind of just do a sweep around the township for signs that are in the right of way. We, just a story about, we did that in a neighborhood, and then we had probably 5 calls within 30 minutes of doing that, where they were receiving a discount for advertising and having that sign in their yard from work maybe that the roofer was doing when they were there. And so the only way that they got their discount is if the contractor was able to pick their sign up at the end of the job. So we had taken their sign, so they were not very happy. And then next, what that really does for us too, a lot of times, well, there are some occasions where our code enforcement officer will get calls from neighbors where maybe a roofer is working. They think they're working outside of, the business hours that they're allowed to work, or maybe they're leaving their work site a mess. And these contractor identification signs will help in identifying for safety services too, whoever's doing work on that property as well. So that's the major update. And you'll see here just a variety of different kinds of contractor identification signs, kind of run the gamut. On the next slide, you'll see just an update again, changeable copy. We have percentages in some places, and then we have square footage in other places. So we just wanted to make it even and combine that. So ground signs, and you'll see here what we're referring to as changeable copy signs in the middle, Wilbush Elementary. The primary purpose of that sign is to give a message to someone. So we want them to have enough square footage to be able to do that. So they may have up to 30 square feet in overall area, or 75% of the total allowable sign face area. And again, this is the way that we're writing permits, we're permitting this because it's found this way in other parts of the zoning resolution, but now we're just combining it into one place so it's consistent. And that goes also for electronic message centers, where those are the updated version of changeable copy signs. Again, 30 square feet in overall area, or 75% of the total allowable sign face, whichever is least. And then finally, the temporary window area of a window sign that you'll see down here, examples of window signage, not to exceed 25% of the total transparent glass area of the windows on a building frontage. So again, we want to keep internal view visible for safety services purposes, but also allowing them the flexibility to use these window signs. So that does conclude the update for Article 6, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Ms. Graffier, I don't hear any questions. Is there, any comments from the public?
We did not receive any feedback from Summit County Planning Commission. They had no questions. They recommended approval. The only comments were that Copley Township interdepartment review. We had one in 2020 regarding contractor identification signs and the need to establish a regulation permitting the use of such signs.
Okay, for comments for the public, is there anyone here who wants to speak in favor of the text amendment? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of the text amendment? Brian, you're not jumping up. For a third time, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of the text amendment? Okay. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in opposition to the text amendment? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition to the text amendment? And for a third time, is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the text amendment? Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Then I'll make a motion that we close. I'll make a motion that we close the entire public hearing so we can discuss the 3 text amendments and vote.
Second Schulte.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Schulte, yes.
The, we closed the first 2 individually.
I did not. We closed the whole thing. I closed any further comments and moved on to the second ones. So now the public hearing is now closed.
As long as you voted to close the public.
Yeah, that's what this was about. We just voted to close the public hearing. So let's open discussion between the board members on the first item, Article 4 and Article 7 concerning unattached and attached secondary structures. Any comments about it? Any discussion? Okay. Then I'm going to make a motion in favor of adopting the text amendment as proposed.
Second Schulte.
Any comments or discussion? Ms. Pfeiffer, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Dressler?
Yes.
Trustee Colmer?
Yes.
Trustee Schulte?
Yes.
Okay, that one's completed. The next one, yeah, I reversed them. This one is Article 2, 203, and Article 6, 601, O and Y. This one is concerning, I did change
That's one
those
you
up.
did. That's one you did.
Okay, so this one will be on the conditional uses of commercial office and retail district. Any discussion about it? I'll make a motion for approval for the text amendment change for Article 4 and 7.
Second Schulte.
Any other discussion? Ms. Pfeiffer, you call the roll, please.
Trustee Dressler?
Yes.
Trustee Colmer?
Yes.
And Trustee Schulte?
Yes.
Okay. And next, is there any discussion about the third item, which is the commercial and residential districts? This would be Article 8. Any discussion about it? I'll make a motion for approval.
Second Schulte.
Any other discussion? Ms. Pfeiffer, you call the roll, please.
Trustee Dressler?
Yes.
Trustee Colmer?
Yes.
Trustee Schulte?
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Will all of these be resolutions? Are these resolutions approving, or are they just motions? The resolutions, I think, right? From zoning commission.
We've had to do roll calls in the past.
Here's the resolution.
Okay, so the Article 2, Article 6 will be resolution number 92, 2021. Article 4, Article 7 is number 93, 2021. And Article 8 is number 94, 2021.
Thank you. Okay. We're running a few minutes behind, but we're going to take a short recess and we'll begin the regular scheduled Board of Trustees meeting in 5 minutes. We know where we close.
This conference will now be recorded.
These meeting together September 14th, 2020 at 6:43 p.m. Please stand for the pledge if you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah. Thank you, Chief. The other chief. So I'd like to welcome any guests. Brian, can we, what's that news here? Mr. Henry, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, sir. Welcome. There are some people, looks like our attorney, David Firestein, is online. I don't see Mr. Bowling. Oh, Mr. Griffin from the Beacon Journal is there as well. For those joining virtually, and since you played all the time. For those joining virtually, we have in person here, Mr. Klein, the Economic Development Director, Chief Bauer, Fire Department, Mr. Mitchell from the Service Department, Chief Meyer from the Police Department, Ms. Marshall for the Township Administrator, trustees, Mr. Dressler, Bruce Fuller, and Mr. Schulte. Ms. Pfeiffer in the fiscal office here as well. You mentioned everybody. So we'll move on. Start the Board of Trustees. First item for discussion is capital project spending priorities. This has been a project we've worked on for some time. We had a project list and which was approved in March. And I think we want to discuss it further. Mr. Schulte asked in an email, wanted to discuss it further, basically because of the influx of American Rescue Plan Act money. Is that correct?
Not exactly.
Okay.
So as you know, we've pushed to make our fire, police, and road levies continuous so that they don't go to the polls anymore. And while that was also done to eliminate some kind of incremental tax increases to our residents, another reason we did that was so that kind of clean up our source of revenue, so that if we want to go out and get financing, our bond rating would be better, our credit would be better, interest rates would be lower. And as we sit here and we take a look at the many spending projects we have, we don't have any debt on the balance sheet right now. But we know we have some spending projects, whether it be Sunset Drive, parking lot for parking lots for the Copley Circle, stormwater management, trails, and of course broadband. And in order to assess what we can and can't do, we have to get a fix on what our interest rate is going to be if we want to go out either by issuing public debt or in a private placement. And so I'm recommending, after consulting with Summit County, Brian Nelson at Summit County, he recommended that we proceed with figuring out where we stand on an interest rate, engaging a financial advisor, and start the process.
Okay. The last email correspondence I received stated that we needed to have a project first.
So, and we certainly do have several projects that I think all of us individually and collectively feel that there's several projects that we're going to incur some debt to get done here in the township. The question is at what interest rate and what can we afford? And we need to solve that. We need to solve that by understanding what our interest rate would be, whether it be through public debt, a debt issuance, or through private placement. And in order to do that, we need to engage a financial advisor and get a fix on that number. Understanding that we may not know the exact amount that we're going to borrow until the start of 2022. And at that time, Brian Nelson tells me in regards to broadband, which is a hot topic in the community right now, Brian Nelson tells me at that time, they will have a better fix on what the counties can and can't do as far as matching funds and so forth on broadband. So we're all kind of,
I'm sorry, when will you have that matching funds?
by the end of 21, start of 22, he'll have a better fix on what the county is and is not going to do in regards to broadband matching funds.
Will they have an idea what the broadband infrastructure is going to cost?
I had a pretty extensive conversation with him yesterday, and I'll quote him. He's herding cats right now. Mm-hmm. And 30 some odd communities in the county, and a lot of private people wanting in, and a lot of inquiry. They're pushing ahead very hard on it, but he doesn't have an answer. And certainly nothing's gone in front of some county council as far as providing for any matching funds at this point. He thinks that will happen, but he also thinks there's a possibility that maybe we don't have to put in as much money to get broadband here as we originally thought. So we don't know what our broadband number is going to be definitively, is the bottom line as we see here today. He thinks he would have a good fix on that by the start of 2022. Similarly, we have several projects on trails, pathways, stormwater management, parking lot, Sunset Drive, that we want to get done, that we know we're going to have to issue debt for. So the question is not if we're going to incur debt, the question is how much. And in order to determine how much debt, we have to understand what our interest rate would be, so that we can make sure we have the debt service covered.
Yeah, but that's going to be sort of a moving target because interest rates, as we all know, is going to change regardless of what our credit rating is. So I think what you're asking for is to engage with an advisor to ascertain our credit rating.
Ascertain where we would be on the credit spectrum and find out what our interest, ultimately what our interest rate would be.
Okay,
Whether
so
we
what
issue
you're,
bonds or
so it limits my confusion. You're asking that we move forward with our credit rating, and then that would give us our current interest rate, correct?
I'm wanting I'm wanting us to approve to engage a financial advisor to look at what our credit would be, and therefore for a bond rating, and also to what interest rates may be if we wanted to go down a private placement. So we can take a look at that. Because if we go down private placement, we would save some cost of a bond rating. So it's just time to engage them so we understand what path we have. Are we going to be borrowing at 1%? Or are we going to be borrowing 2%? In my mind, if we make an investment in this community that doesn't return an investment greater than 1 or 2%, then
There's absolutely, in my opinion, I don't want to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
In my opinion, there are some projects that have to get done. As we discussed this past March, the sewer extension to finish out the sewer in the jet area is a big one. The parking lot to promote economic development around the circle is another one, and the Sunset Road, which we've already committed to do, which will open up commercial property and spawn economic development around the circle and allow us access to property that we own that we currently can't get to. So I'm all for those. And if now is the time, and God bless the people who ran the township before I sat in the seat. We have no debt. That's a great thing. But we need to move forward with a few projects. And when interest rates are 1% or lower, now is the time to do it. I don't want to do this when the interest rates can be 4 or 5%. It costs us considerably more in interest.
If I may interrupt, Bruce, and the reason I'm pushing for this now is the timing. Okay, we know that we've separately applied for a loan from the EPA to do a study on the sewer. Eventually, that could lead to financing for the sewer to the tune of several $1 million in debt. Before we take any debt on, okay, we have a unique window right now where we haven't taken any debt on, and after this November, all of our levies will be continuous, assuming the levy in November passes. So from a financing perspective, generally when somebody's looking at credit of a municipality or township, they're looking at levies that are always expiring, and therefore maybe 3 years from now the levy doesn't pass, and all of a sudden how is Copley Township going to be able to pay the debt that they're taking in? That's not going to be our position. All of our levies will be continuous. We'll have nice steady flow. That makes us very attractive. And simultaneously, we still don't have any debt yet because we haven't incurred any sewer debt. So for the non-sewer projects where we're looking to float debt and finance, this is the window of opportunity to go get that debt in place. And whether it's private placement or a bond, and we need to find out what kind of interest rates we're going to get. And we need to engage a financial advisor to make that happen.
I could just intercede here. We have engaged a financial advisor in the past. At the time when we were looking at the safety center and going through the process of issuing bonds and so forth to finance that, we did hire Cicina and Associates. Most recently, we consulted him when we were looking and asking the questions about getting a bond rating at this time, and he answered and so forth. I'd be happy to set up a meeting with him that he could come and hear all of our issues and understand all of the options that we have, all of the positions we're in. We also had hired bond counsel at the same time, and that was Michael, another Michael. And we haven't engaged him yet because we haven't issued bonds, but we do have those professionals in place that are somewhat familiar with what Copley Township had been looking at in the past. If you want to look at other advisors, certainly we can, but we do have those people in place, and it wouldn't be anything to come up with a meeting. It wouldn't be a process to get a financial advisor.
Okay. And this is the financial advisor that we've used in the past?
He has advised us in the past. I don't think we've paid him a dime up to this point because we've never really gone through with any type of bond issuance or any kind of, he's been gracious enough to give us his advice and his opinion in the hopes of a future project, I'm sure. But at this point, he has advised us, but we have not paid him.
Well, saying that, I will tell you that when we had formed the Safety Center Building Committee, which I sat on, we did have these entities, these organizations in to speak with us. And there was a lot of questions that came, there was a lot of discussion that came with it. And there was it gave us some insight on what their capabilities were. I would recommend, I thought very highly of them, and I would recommend that we invite them to one of our meetings so we can all ask them questions. Because I have a few about it too. One is basically the email we received from one of the entities, one of the organizations saying, don't move on this yet. So I would want to know, I want to know why that is too. So my opinion is, let's invite them in here.
At the September 28th meeting?
Absolutely. Or if we want to do a workshop or anytime, if we want to set up a special meeting, have them, that's fine with me too. Having a professional organization come in after
Why don't
hours
we do a
makes it cool.
special meeting?
A workshop?
Just call it a special meeting to this, it's still a public meeting and we'll
Right.
have time. Because we
should.
instead of sitting here and doing it all.
Ms. Marshall, would you mind arranging that?
Not at all.
And we could do it, they've been very conducive to us. If we'll try and work around their schedules the best we can.
And you would like to meet with Mr. Sitzina and the bond counsel?
I would,
attorney?
yeah.
Okay.
Maybe next week, Janice, is that possible, you think?
Possible. I'll see what their schedules are.
If it's next week, I have to do Monday or Tuesday only.
5:30 meeting.
Tuesday? Next Tuesday?
If they're available in the evening, it'd be difficult. But if they're available, yeah, I can do.
And, we're picking it, so if it doesn't work, it's, we're deciding. They might not make it, but at least an initial.
Monday or Tuesday works. I might not make the CIC meeting.
Monday or Tuesday in the afternoon?
Yes.
I'm good in the afternoon, Monday or Tuesday as well.
But at 5.
But I've got a 6 o'clock on Monday.
I got 6 o'clock on Tuesday. If we do
All right, we'll
CIC.
pick the next week. I mean,
See what they're available.
I'll see their
what they're
availability.
available.
what
And
they
get
want
back.
to do and how long they think. to go over our- You can go over a lot of things with them.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. All right.
That's what I want to talk about. I just want to push up all along and have.
And
have
probably in
everybody
a special
understand-
meeting where we're just
Yeah.
dealing with that issue is probably the perfect realm to deal with.
We're in this unique window where we're going to have all of our levies be continuous and still no debt.
Yep.
And it's the prime time.
Yep. Anything other, we have an executive session to discuss hiring personnel and service on the agenda for Board of Trustees. Anything else for the Board of Trustees? Okay, Ms. Piper, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First, I have a motion to approve the Board of Trustees regular meeting minutes of August 31st, 2021.
So move.
So,
Any discussions or additions or corrections? Hearing none, I'll call for the motion.
Dressler, yes.
Colner, yes.
Schulte, yes.
Next is a resolution 2021, number 95. It's a resolution approving a purchase order in the amount of $3,400 to Miller's Printing to cover expenses for the fall edition of The Connection.
So move Schulte.
Second, Colner. Any discussion? I'll call for the, we call the roll, please.
Trustee Dressler?
Yes.
Trustee Colner?
Yes.
Trustee Schulte?
Yes.
Okay, next is a motion to approve a reallocation of funds in the amount of $22,500 from account number 2191-760-730 improvement of sites to 2191-22319 professional and technical services in the fire department.
So move.
Second.
Discussion?
Can you explain why
Yes.
this is needed?
Can you
Can you explain?
it? Yeah. The 22.5, Keely had wanted to take it out of the improvement of sites, and it really isn't, and it's like more like a capital improvement. So instead, we're taking it out of technical services. In the fire
What's this 22.5 for?
department.
The architect? Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
that's for the architectural.
Okay.
So we just take
It's
it, just
previously
moving it.
appropriated or
Yep.
unbudgeted.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion? I want to make a comment here. It's not about this. I had a couple questions from people who had viewed the meetings previously and wanted to know why the township was expending funds to improve the police department and the fire department. I want to make it clear for the record that we had discussions of why are we putting money into the buildings when we're going to most likely or going to at least go to the election or to the ballot to see if we want to build a safety center. At the end of the day, these are still our buildings. We have to fix leaking roofs, repair windows that are broken, those sort of things. And that's why we're trying to expend as few funds, and we mentioned before, few funds as we possibly can, but still maintain the building. No matter what happens with a new safety center, the building that we're in now will be our building. If we use it for community involvement or public meeting areas, it still has to have a sound roof and unbroken windows and so on. So that's just a comment that I wanted to make. So with that, that 22.5 does not require a resolution. It's just a motion. Is that correct?
You did a resolution
We
for the
have-
20,000 for the architect. So what had to happen was the movement of the money in order to cover it because the
Okay.
professional fees did not include an architect in 2020.
Okay, so a motion's okay with this. Okay. I'll call for the motion.
Dressler, yes.
Colner, yes.
Schulte, yes.
Thank you. Next, I received from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control, Mike, I don't know if you received them or not, an application for a change of corporate stock ownership. It's going to go from Bed Bath & Beyond to Cost Plus World Market LLC. I haven't received anything from Summit County. This has just come in.
Is there an address for the facility?
It's 4020 Medina Road, Unit 120, Copley Township, Cost Plus Inc.
4020 Medina is in Copley.
World Market. Well, World Market is in Coppin,
Yeah,
and that's
Yeah,
who's
that's-
getting the stock.
It's on Route 18.
So the transfer from Bed Bath and Beyond to.
yes, yes.
It's right there next to Cinema. It doesn't sound like a liquor issue.
The World Market has a liquor license. Because they sell wine.
Yes. It's a stock transfer.
100 shares of stock is going from Bed Bath & Beyond to World Market.
Right.
I don't know why that triggers necessarily a liquor permit.
It's the ownership transfers. Well, somebody's
I
using,
mean, I don't see a reason to challenge.
someone's using their stock to purchase ownership in the other entity. It sounds like.
You'd like to see it?
Sure.
It was just a transfer of full market. We had a liquor license for quite some time. Never had any issues. I would.
Ms. Pfeiffer, in the, just so we know that these notices come from Ohio Division of Liquor Control and they're addressed to you. Would you please note that Chief Meyer generally handles the comments to the board and he does not receive them. So if you do receive those, would you
He
immediately send
usually
them on
gets
next?
them. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it just came
So
today.
is Bed Bath and Beyond own,
Okay.
well, do they own World Market? Don't know. That's what they're just buying more shares. Cost plus-
Regardless, there hasn't been an
so Cost
issue.
Plus Inc. owns World Market. So they're using shares from one to own
Yeah.
shares in the
Okay.
other.
All right, thank you.
okay, thank you. So you're not going to request a hearing?
Not unless Chief Meyer recommends otherwise later on.
Thank you.
Do you want a motion to that effect?
Yes, I'll make a motion to not hold a hearing for the change in shareholder ownership of the World Market.
I'll second. Discussion? The only caveat to that, Chief, is if you see something, I'd like to hear about it next meeting. I don't perceive anything either, but if you see something without any investigation or with further investigation.
Normally those are corporate stock transfers.
I'll call for the motion.
Josie, yes.
Colner, yes.
Schulte, yes.
Okay, secondly, I received another request for a WWT Nolan LLC. Did you receive this one? Right, at 4640 Medina Road. They're requesting a liquor permit. It would be Ronald G. Nolan Estate, Wesley and Walter Nolan. CO Executors, 4640 Medina Road, Copley Township, 44321.
And say if that's a transfer. 'cause
No, looks like a new license.
Is it for the estate transfer?
Yeah, it's for the estate.
it goes to the state.
Yeah,
You already have one.
Let's, we have some time on this. Why don't you investigate? With the passing of Mr. Nolan, I'm guessing this is a transfer to the estate. Mhm. Yep. Okay, would you get a copy of this to Chief Meyer, please?
sure.
Thank you. We'll hold on that one, then you can bring it up next meeting.
I have to respond. When's our next meeting?
28th.
Okay, we got time. All right, very good. Okay, I wanted to give you an update. The August financials are completed. I will be printing out your reports here shortly. And let's go ahead with our discussion on the RFP recommendations. First of all, at this point, I can't recommend. I'm not ready to make a recommendation. Here is my report as of to date, the state. And so if you'd like to look at it, let me know what your recommendation is. I was in the air when I thought the fiscal officer made the choice of the financial institution, but I don't. It's the responsibility of the board. So I've just done the research and
And you're not in a position to make a recommendation to us?
no, I'm just not.
You're saying you don't want to ever
Oh,
Not going to?
I will, but I want you to get,
Oh,
this is
okay.
gonna be a really big move. We have a relationship with a banking institution. They don't charge us any service charges.
What
We
banking
don't-
institution is that, ma'am?
Huntington. What I did is I took our current bank, compared the other two in the RFPs, just to give you some idea of what we're doing right now. And I had them, each bank, fill out this pricing sheet.
So can I answer a question?
Sure.
So you included in the spreadsheet, in the comparable spreadsheet, Huntington, Westfield, and Chase.
Right, Huntington's out, I just wanted to give you a background.
Okay, so they're not a choice now.
No, they're
Okay.
not a choice, but I want you to give what we're doing right now. We're not getting a service charge. It's going to be a major, major transition.
Huntington can be a choice if we choose not to.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I
She's
mean,
just
I'm
using that to
just,
show what we currently.
Okay,
right,
that's what I was
what
trying to.
our current, because you really need to know that. You need to know how Westfield and Chase compares. And on the back, it kind of gives you the bottom line.
So this is where we are versus the two alternatives of where we
Yes.
could be.
Yes. And this information was gathered strictly from each bank.
Now, when you say this information is gathered from the bank,
Yeah, I had them fill out, you'll see the correspondence that I attached, Westfield and also Chase. And
So
it's gonna be,
currently with Huntington, we pay no net fees and we make no net income. Okay,
well, we make,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I know where you're going with that, but I've got a question that might negate all the other questions. Ms. Pfeiffer, I'm looking at the emails here that you sent or that you copied us on.
Mhm.
And you're asking for them to fill out this. This is the information that
right.
generated the spreadsheet.
Mhm.
This is, I can't accept this. It has to be from what was in the bids. So if
Well,
this
that-
information is the same as the bids,
That's based on the RFP.
okay, but this email says this information was based on information they sent you today.
Correct.
Okay, we can't do that. It says here, this information that's in this spreadsheet was given to you by
Well,
Travis Kelly on today's date.
don't I have the right to question them or communicate with them?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's not
Because
my
I'm trying to
question.
get a-
That's not my question. My question is, are these numbers generated from exactly what's in the RFP, or are these numbers what they gave you today?
It's numbers based on what was in the RFP and they responded to.
yeah, without seeing what Linda provided today, my analysis generated
I mean,
very similar numbers here as far as what Westfield versus.
And I
Chase.
understand that. My point is,
It's all, so, and I didn't see these things. I based it purely on the RFP.
okay,
And
so this information is what's in the RFP.
yes,
That's all I'm asking.
yes.
I will confirm that. But what I'm saying is if these numbers are different than what's in the RFP, and any of these numbers came from this email, we can't use it. You understand that?
Yep.
Well, no, I'm
No,
not,
I
I'm not
mean,
belittling you. I'm saying flat, those were bid quotes. So the bid quotes have to be what is in here. No information from here. These emails that were sent to you today are irrelevant unless they are identical to the RFP.
well, I was trying to get at each bank and what the bottom line was.
And that should be in the RFP quote, not generated from an email dated today. The bids were closed last session. I see a look in your eye that you think I'm wrong.
No, you're gonna make the decision. It's not gonna be me. So you make your decision.
Well, because you work with them, I would relish your input here as well. But I just want to make sure the information is what was quoted during the quote process,
Mhm.
not generated from an email 2
Well,
weeks later.
they had the opportunity to provide what else they could. I was trying to get some input from these these banks. That's all I was trying to do. I wasn't
Okay.
trying to change the figures in here. Believe me, these are rock solid.
So your email to both of them was the same.
Right.
Today. I see
And,
that.
and Jim wanted me to ask, and I did ask that
And
question.
I asked our legal counsel, Dave Firestein, if it would be appropriate to make sure that we're not missing anything, because the proposals that she received were written differently.
Correct. And they're difficult to decipher. I agree with that.
Decipher. So
I get
so I recommended in an email, and our legal counsel concurred, that is, we asked the same question, both institutions that submitted bids, to clarify what their original RFP said, and that's what she did.
So this kind
So
of
both of them start out
replaced
with,
Exhibit A.
both of them start out with, this is what was included in our RFP response, based on.
Understand.
So, yeah.
Right.
So their responses are saying, yes, it's in our RFP. So I think we're okay. I don't see that the pot was poisoned here at all.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
When do you
I
think?
think we have the freedom to choose here. There's restrictions on what fiscal can or can't do, but we're not signing a contract with them for a length of time, or their rates change or fees can change. The flexibility, I think, is here where you can ask questions, and I would think of fine tune. We're just looking to get
I'm
the
just
best.
fine tuning it.
We just to get the best situation for our banking. We're not, am I correct? We can change banks, and then we can change banks next year. What's
The whole point behind this exercise is through the ORC, and the ORC provides that every 5 years, the governmental entity needs to check its interest rates from neighboring banks to make sure that they're safeguarding the taxpayers' money and getting the best return for their investment. So traditionally, it's been a very simple process of putting out a request for interest rates from your neighborhood banks. If you don't have any neighborhood banks, then you move out from your township or out from your entity to try to encourage local participation, and you take the best interest rate that's offered. It's not necessarily traditionally been a RFP process where we go through and find out. It's a way that fiscal is being responsible for getting the best interest rate possible on the money provided. That's
It's
as
just a-
far
it's
as the
just-
ORC goes.
It's something to spawn the community to look at something that they typically wouldn't look at.
Right, because it is a big undertaking to switch banks. And so people get very comfortable and they want to stay there for 20, 30 years. And the ORC says, no, you really should check it every 5 years. So that's a requirement. That's the only requirement that the ORC has, is that you check the
Right, so we're
interest
not really
rates.
beholden to the RFP per se. So asking questions or asking what else they do, that's fine. We can ask whatever we want. The initially was to ask if someone, Jim Pusher, if someone would build a branch here, and that didn't really pan out. But the thought that to look at the banks and to see what's available, that's our choice. And like I said, and you don't want to keep changing banks. It's an undertaking to do it, but we can do that kind of at will anyway.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of information because of this, and you can see what it's pretty close to compare. And so we look at the information and decide. There's no specific low or high bid is what I'm trying to emphasize on, because everything they do, it's a variety of services, which we pick and choose from. We can choose to invest money in different ways anyway, and they're looking to offer, obviously, against fees on sweeping our account. So that's the really almost single event that's occurring here. They're charging fees for the service, and we have a few $1 million that they're going to overnight sweep, and that's the function. So there isn't maybe a lot of other money changing hands to look at. Those are the numbers, two numbers.
So, may I speak?
Absolutely.
So based on the two proposals we received, it looks to me like Chase Bank would assess fees of $1,400, $1,408, and it would take all of our available cash to offset those balances, and there would still be a service charge of $576 a month. In their original proposal, right? Westfield's fees are significantly less, and that would give us excess balances that would make an earnings credit that would generate $719 a month for the township. So it's a swing of about $1,300 a month between the two proposals. Either we pay fees or we make interest.
So am I hearing from my colleagues that you want to make a decision on this tonight? If so, you're welcome to make a motion.
For purposes of discussion, I'll move to engage Westfield Bank as the financial institution for our banking affairs for the township.
One second. The other thing I want to bring up is that, like that, the sweep and so forth, that's the daily, that's gonna change, so that's not something they guarantee.
Well, they're guaranteeing it for a year. In Westfield's proposal, they've guaranteed it for a year.
What about Chase's?
I did not see a guarantee in there, but we're paying on the Chase proposals already.
So we did this sweep thing with Huntington, and it lasted for, I believe, 1 month before they changed it. And
I
West,
mean, potentially that rate goes up.
Could go
It's
up.
pretty much at zero.
0.01, close to 0.
So the odds are in our favor that it goes up.
Yeah.
Is the way I look at it. They can't really go too much. So that's in our favor. Unfortunately, the price of everything else is going to go.
Ms. Piper, it's going to eventually, there's a motion on the floor, so this is going to come to a vote. So my question to you is, are you want to state again that you are not ready to make a recommendation to us?
I just think there's some unanswered things that we need to look at.
Go ahead.
I just think we should really look at everything and ask questions and
When is the deadline that we have to make a decision by?
September. And we have, there's so much to think about, because if we do transition into another bank, we have until the 1st of next year. Do we put so much money in that bank and we slowly transition? There's a lot of accounts we pay online. All that has to be taken into consideration. Our credit cards. I mean, it's going to be a huge, huge transition. I know what we have now works, but it doesn't work for what you guys want. You want to make money and you want,
Ms. Marshall,
it's your decision.
when you were fiscal officer, did you have to use a different bank? It's always been Huntington?
It was First
First Merit.
National.
First
First
National,
National,
then First
then
Merit.
First Merit, and then
Yeah,
Huntington Bond.
I mean, it's changed hands, but we've never needed to change hands.
Okay, any other
You know.
discussion? I'm sorry.
This is based on the RFP, what was in the RFP. Okay, we have more money. Okay, so we know these figures are going to change. We have more money in our checking account right now than 6 million.
Right, but the people that submitted a proposal all submitted on the same numbers that we
Right.
provided.
Right. So will those figures change?
Okay, you
Will the
answer-
bottom line
Sure, the
change?
bottom line will change. It'll,
The percentage
And-
remains the same.
but to the extent that the dollars in the bank increase, the fact that one institution is giving you a larger percentage of earnings credit and a larger sweep rate, a higher sweep rate, will actually result in the spread being increased
Mhm.
when you apply it to.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do, is to get something from them in writing. So
Well, the spread as proposed, as
Yeah.
submitted, is a $1,300 a month spread between the two.
So
If you have
it could
more
only
money in the
be
bank,
better.
the spread increases, is what I'm saying.
What would you anticipate a transfer cost? Is that what you're getting at? There's a cost to
Oh, boy.
transfer.
We have
Is
the
it-
remote deposit capture, we have credit cards, we have.
Is
We
it,
need to have something set up with the new
It's a sunk
bank. I
cost.
mean, really think about the transition. How
It's a
much money?
it's a one-time cost. I'm just asking, I mean, you don't have to have a number. I'm just asking if you know, 20,000, 5,000, 1,000. I'm just, I don't anticipate it as a large number, but I don't want it to come back and say, by the way, it was $25,000 to transfer some more. Where we had to pay legal fees or something
Right.
like that. If we could have that number, is that what you're trying to say, that it's gonna cost too much, or I'm just asking
is
because.
it labor
there's a-
hours
there's a
or is
minimum-
there
there's a
actual other
minimal-
things you
I
have to
mean, we
pay?
can do the labor. We're not
There's a
worried
minimum
about that.
cost. So credit cards and so forth, that's all required to transfer for the rates?
Well, there's no fees in switching. There's no fees in
How about
changing
equipment?
banks.
Yeah, I don't think the credit cards are gonna be a problem, and we just
Wow,
have
that's
to.
why I'm asking.
Yeah.
It's an internal
Is
sunk
it-
cost of the fiscal department and the township.
Okay.
So the people here that receive money, that work with the banks are going to have to do internal work. It's a sunk cost to the township.
All right. Unless I'm just asking, because
I mean, we'll get right on it. I mean,
I would anticipate it's just minimum.
I would too, unless there's equipment we have to purchase, which it doesn't sound like there is. There's not
Our
credit
remote-
card
I
machines.
mean, that's
I'm sorry?
remote deposit capture machine.
I think
There
the
would be
banks
no
usually give you that
charge.
equipment.
Huh?
The banks usually give you that equipment because they're
Yeah,
gonna recoup it in there.
exactly.
Put a
Okay.
new safe in the fiscal office.
So, but you know, I mean, we would like to transition slowly. And so we would have to have Westfield have so much money so we can start making
Can
those
you do that?
transitions.
And switch to cryptocurrency.
I would think you might want to do it the other way. You might
Yeah.
want to give Westfield a majority of money, but leave some in Huntington.
Okay.
Correct.
So that if you have some lingering costs that you have forgotten to switch over, they can be covered. But a majority of your funds would be with your,
But this would
It's
start
your-
the first of
Everything that's an
next
automatic
year.
that you need to watch for, and then people.
So legally, what do we have to do? What,
those are all things you'll have to discover.
yeah, okay. I know we have to have investment agreements and all that.
So
They know what they're doing. You meet with the bank and both banks, and they'll tell you how to do it.
Okay,
It's not that uncommon.
Wherever we choose, they want your business.
sure.
So they're going to hold your hand and make it easy.
So Ms. Piper, going back to my original question, are you prepared or not prepared to give us a recommendation tonight?
Boy, put me up against the wall here. I'm very happy with Huntington, but it's not my decision. That's the best I can do.
Okay, we can't use Huntington. We have RFPs from two other entities. I don't want to belabor this and suffer from analysis paralysis. We need to
No,
do something here. So I'm hearing no recommendation, correct?
No.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? So I will call for the motion.
The motion is to.
We have a motion. We had a motion and you seconded it to switch from Huntington to Westfield.
Beginning January 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was already mentioned. It wasn't in the motion, but we can add that. Beginning January 1st, 2022.
That'll match our fiscal year also. Justly, yes.
Colner abstain.
Schulte, yes.
okay.
Yeah.
I guess, oh, there's one more thing. I need a motion to add Cheryl Deppish and Steve Blaisdell to our Sam's Club credit card.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Are you removing
I went
someone?
ahead and removed Keith Moore and Sandy, and these two will replace.
Right. That just might be part of the motion.
So my motion, I'll amend my motion to remove Assistant Chief Moore, retired, and Miss Sandy Bittner, retired, replace them with new Assistant Chief Stephen Blaisdell and new Administrative Assistant in the Police Department, Cheryl Defish, on the Sam's Club credit card.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Call for the motion. I'm sorry. Call for the motion. Colner, yes.
Schulte, yes.
So there will be a resolution then, the banking resolution, so I can,
We did that through a motion. Did it need
yeah,
to be a
shouldn't that be a
resolution?
resolution?
To do what?
To change banks?
That's fine.
We can, you can draft a resolution.
There are uniform resolutions that you use for this whole process.
Okay,
Standard. when you-
all right,
it's like a
well,
contract.
So we have some time.
okay,
That's part of the ORC. You're gonna have, you
Yeah.
have to designate, you by law designate a bank.
Right.
You know what you run the township right now.
So today we just approved you writing a resolution. Right.
Yes, to move forward with it. You can bring a resolution to us at the next meeting.
I'll see what Trevor says. Maybe he has a resolution
Mhm.
we can use. So with that, I guess that's all I need. The Nolan liquor permit will be on hold until next time. And that's all for me.
Chief Meyer, if you want to get that copy of that, really great, appreciate it. All right, thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Piper? Ms. Marshall?
The only request I have tonight is to request an executive session for benefits of employment in the fire department. And actually in all departments. Yes.
Anything for Ms. Marshall? Okay. Chief Bauer, you're up. Did you notice how short Ms. Marshall's?
I did.
She did not give her excess time.
I'm not expecting something similar. So, good evening, everyone.
Allow just time, not coincidence, it's just by accident he gets up when you get up.
He's the smartest one in the room. Well, he was the smartest one. I didn't want to let the meeting go by without acknowledging that over the weekend, we, in the most somber way, recognized the 20th anniversary of the attacks on 9/11. I don't think I get any argument from anybody if I described it as a senseless act. And the numbers that you see here at the top of the slide represent what happened that day. 2,977 people died as a result of the attack, not only in New York, but in Washington as well. The crash that took place in Pennsylvania. We lost 343 firefighters, 72 law enforcement personnel on that day. And I don't know if it is widely known, but September happens to be Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. The next three numbers that you see is the number of firefighter and EMT suicides that have taken place since 2001, September 2001, 1,453. Those first responders chose to end their life. 30,177 military veterans took their own life in that intervening period of time. And total number of suicides in the United States number over 750,000 people who, it goes without saying, reached a point where the only answer to them at that time was hours to. So I don't say that by any means to minimize what happened on 9/11, but to highlight the public health epidemic that is represented by suicides in all walks of life. And so if you have an opportunity, just take a minute, think about this, reach out to a friend who maybe doesn't have many friends. There is a evolving science and a good field of study that has found the number one reason when there is a reason to be found. Number one reason for suicide is relationship problems, and that's especially true for first responders. First responders and military personnel are at significantly higher risks for suicide than any other segment. So I appreciate you letting me talk about that. I'm not going to belabor this point, but Ms. Marshall, if you would go to the next slide. And so over the next few minutes, I will give you an update on capital projects and something that touches on overtime. And I'll also ask for executive session to talk about benefits or employment of personnel in the fire department. So the next slide, what I did here, and this goes back to some of the questions that I've gotten from different members of the board. What you see there is the scheduled hours that part-time personnel worked since 2015. So you can see the trend. 2015, a little bit over 30,000 hours were worked by our part-time staff. And now we get to the point where in 2020, there was just a little bit over 21,000. And that's my guesstimate for what we'll do the end of this year. It's around the same. And Ms. Marshall, if you give me the next slide. I thought these bars would show up a little bit better, but at any rate, I started back in 2014, and Trustee Dressler, you were asking for, I believe, some information like this. This gives you a graphical representation of the number of full-time versus part-time personnel that we have had on our roster starting in February of 2016. So you can see that although there's been a small increase in our full-time personnel, our part-time personnel, though it certainly has fluctuated, we are dramatically down. And so the FAT 33 number a month from now is probably going to be 31, which is something I'll discuss in executive session. The other thing that I would like you to take note of is you can see that since May of 2020, we have had 19 full-time personnel, but also keep in mind that beginning this past spring, we hired another full-time personnel knowing that we've got an extended illness that we have to cover. So for the purposes of filling the schedule, that number is really 18. Any questions on that?
There's one less on the line than what you have numbered there.
Right, but they're still on the roster.
Right, they're on the roster, but not on the line.
I'll have more information that touches on this in different areas, but I wanted to get this information and I wanted to be able to go back enough years so that the board could get a good idea of what our trends. The other thing that I'll make mention of is I also did a calculation of how many part-time personnel we would need to have working in order to take the place of a full-time personnel schedule. And the interesting thing that I found was that back in 2019, I ran the numbers, we could have 3 part-time firefighters, firefighter paramedics work, and they would make up the hours that a full-time person would take. And then 3 years later, in 2019, that increased by 1. So in 3 years, it went from 3 to 1 to 4 to 1.
So what you're saying is the number of hours a part-time working on average is lower. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there used to be a number that you required per month. Is that still in place, or is that number increased or decreased?
That requirement's been the same. So in 2019, we were getting a little bit more than 60 hours on average, and now we're getting around 40.
Per month, per part-time person.
But what's the requirement level?
So what we ask them for is 60 hours of availability. Then we generally ask them to work 48 of that 60.
I'm guessing that's primarily caused by most of our part-time personnel are full-time in other departments, and they get called into work to their primary employer in negating any, they might schedule a day here and then be called by the primary employer and have to report there and stop the employment.
And it is somewhat of multifactorial thing where it's not just that, but it's also over time. At one time, you could work your full-time job and you could come to Copley or Copley back in mine, and you're not going to be that busy. And we're just not like that anymore. You're at your full-time job and you run your butt off. You come to your part-time job, you're going to run your butt off. And that's part of it too.
How much this could be related to COVID and their primary job, their full-time fire department, wanting them to work within the department and not go get COVID in Copley.
You know, in 2020, we went through a period of time, there was a little bit of that, but I just don't see that having any.
No bearing today.
I
Okay.
really don't. I mean, that's a good question. It did come up last year in discussion with some county chiefs. No, I don't think that's.
So are we hiring the wrong part-time person? Meaning, is it a possibility of hiring the part-time person that is not fully employed, does not have a full-time fire department job elsewhere? Can we cultivate employment or part-time roster from personnel who are seeking employment elsewhere that would be able to give us more hours?
And that's something we're already doing with limited success. We'll probably find out.
Okay.
How much later, like at 10 o'clock?
It seems that way.
Depends on the board.
I take note of those where it
This
comes.
guy's kind of said that nonchalant, like, you know, it's a long time.
So I don't think that I have anything else for the board.
Any other questions for Chief Bauer? Okay, thank you, sir.
I
interrupted you.
I maybe interrupted you. I thought I interrupted you. This is where you asked me what the percentage of payroll we're paying in overtime.
No, that comes at the end of the quarter,
Right, you are correct,
so we'll wait.
but I calculated.
Good.
I'm done thoroughly.
Not interested in that right now, Chief.
I request the chair to let him reveal the magic number.
Okay, go ahead, Chief.
We're at 15.5% January through the end.
I didn't ask it.
I have one question.
What fun would it be if you
Chris, I have one question. What do you do with the uniforms? Let's say these officers move on to another township or city. I mean, how is the uniforms handled? Do you, like the
We
police
get them back.
department, you do get them back?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I was curious because I know
They
the police department has a program.
Yeah, they, depending on the size, they may not be used or they
Okay.
might be unlikely.
Okay. I'm just curious.
I gave mine back. They were average size at the time.
Yeah.
Yes, in fact. Yeah.
He nudged me. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
don't interrupt. He nudged me. I gave mine back. They were of average size
Yeah.
and somebody used them.
Multiple-
Maybe Chris is wearing them right now.
multiple- Yes, actually, I took a pair of yours.
Where?
Five pair. for
We
me.
embroidered the shirts. That's Bruce's old shirt.
Yep.
Yeah.
All kidding aside, they are fire retardant
Okay.
uniforms and they're quite expensive. The
I
pants
know
used to be
they
like 80 or 90 bucks. So, yeah. So,
Yeah, I was just curious.
did I pick up on that one?
Thanks for taking my review.
You're welcome.
You're a good man.
All right.
Thank you, Chris.
Oh, one other thing. Just a point of order. This is not to be belittling either,
Oh, come
but
on.
they're firefighters, not officers. If you call them officers, it might be confused with another entity that they would not want to be.
Wow.
And the only reason I brought that up was because Chief Meyer was quick to laugh at my Nomex pants joke. Thanks, Chief.
Yeah. Hard to come by.
Sorry about
I'm just-
that. Thanks.
Chief Meyer. See you, Mr. Henry. Thanks for
See
coming.
you, Wes. Come around, I said aye.
Obviously, the fire department report did him in. It's time to go.
Wow. Lost half the spectators in the room.
Okay, well, I'm going to try to make my report just a little bit shorter here. We do have an item on the agenda that I'm sorry is coming to you at the last minute. That's because, as you know, each year we participate in the youth diversion program through the Summit County Juvenile Court. They just contacted me today and indicated that they have money that they can grant to us in a grant, which actually started as of July the 1st, so they're a little bit late this year. So I would just like for you to approve that we can enter into an agreement again, as we do each year, with the Summit County Juvenile Court, in which we could receive up to $13,574 during, as of July 1st through June of 2022, in connection with our diversion.
So
With the
moved.
reimbursement, the youth diversion, reimburse the money.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Can you tell me the number again?
Total that we can get is $13,574 over the year period of time.
Is it received quarterly?
No, twice a year, $6,787 at the end of December, and then $6,788 at the end of June.
Any other discussion? I'll call for the motion.
Kessler, yes.
Colner, yes.
Schulte, yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry to bring that to you at the last moment.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I thought it would say.
Kind of your stuff.
Capital projects, we have had representatives from BNC Communication at our station all last week installing the very first dash camera in one of the cruisers. It's taken an entire week because they said the first one takes longer than the rest until they find out exactly how to be installed, and then we'll move on to the next 8, which should go rather quickly. We also understand that the Montrose cameras are starting to arrive. So once all that equipment is in, they'll be able to start the installation. Don't know exactly when that would take place. In terms of the police department building, Mark and I have not been working the same schedule. We've had some days off that don't line up. And we talked a little bit about the police department building. Don't have any kind of report yet. We'll go over the estimates for windows and roofing. And also I've talked to him about the possibility of acquiring a couple of trailers to use in the back if we're going to be in our existing building for an extended period of time. And we probably need to expand the space we have, and probably the easiest way is through an addition of a couple of trailers back there. We're currently using a semi-trailer to store records in, and that's becoming difficult. I don't mind doing it short term, but if we're going to be in that building a while, I think those need to be moved indoors into more of a substantial trailer that's climate controlled. And also a few other recommendations will be forthcoming with that. So we'll bring that to you in the near future. And in terms of overtime, our overtime was slightly down this month. Running an average of 300 and some hours a month, 300 and some hours of pay period on overtime this month. We were about 279, a little bit under average. We did have some training hours, particularly because we had training at the firing range, which is required a couple times a year. So that caused us to incur some hours there, as well as some overtime, including the DARE program, which is back up and running. So there were a few hours of overtime in connection with that. However, that time will be reimbursed by a DARE grant. So overtime is down a little bit. I think the fire department indicated that 16.5% of their payroll was going to overtime. I'm pretty sure we're at 16.25. That was figures. 15.5. We were at 15.75. Oh. I think that's all we have this evening. I will say there was a very nice event at the high school on Thursday, a couple days ahead of September 11th, that was put together by the high school, in which they invited safety services from Copley and Fairlawn to attend. Our firefighters, our police officers were there, and they had students in each. We had members of the fire and police, and also some students read several names of police, first responders that died in the Trade Towers attack. And the nice part of that was that they remembered the first responders, because it's been 20 years. What was particularly nice is that there were several high school students who were very young, who weren't alive at the time this took place. They actually took part in the ceremony. That was kind of nice, because sometimes younger folks right now aren't as cognizant of sacrifices that we've made for the freedom of our country. So it was nice to see that. It was nice of them. And that's all I have.
Anything else for Chief Meyer? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Mitchell.
Good evening, all.
You
I'd
have
like
one
Chief
more after
Meyer,
this?
I'm sorry.
You have one more after this?
One
One more.
That's it?
So I'll save any for that. Like Chief Meyer, I've got one request that came in late. This has to do with the final disposition of an indigent that lived in the Timberland Ridge facility. Hummel Funeral Homes is in possession of the remains. As you know, we pay $750 for the final disposition and cremation of the indigent. So I'm requesting that we pay Hummel the $750 for the cremation of the remains.
So move Schulte.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the motion.
Yes, yes.
Kohler, yes.
Schulte, yes.
Thank you. Some updates also on our end. The NOPEG grant park fund project has been completed. All the poles have been replaced. All the lights have been replaced. They're all under LED power down at the park now. Part of that project was to verify the conduit is in place from Copley Road to our maintenance building. That has been confirmed. So I'm meeting with Spectrum. Well, I did meet with Spectrum about that, and they were going to send an agreement to install an internet line to the park building. That'll come to Miss Marshall for her approval and signing. I also spoke with Chief Meyer today about the cameras, and he recommended that I speak with Motorola so that maybe we could combine all of our cameras into one system here. So I'm meeting with them on Tuesday to see what their proposal could be for that. 2021 road program, 448 asphalt is ongoing. Bathview Estates, Brookmont Road in Montrose, from Brookwall Drive to State Route 18 is involved in that project. There's 57 feet of concrete curb to be replaced, 200 feet of Rothrock Road from the Metro bus layover to Springside Drive is being replaced. Of course, that project is $376,986.90. Pavement markings, as you know, we opted off the county road program because the price that they were settling with was almost twice what I paid the previous year. So I've contacted JD Striping, who will not only do the striping of all our roads, but will also do the police department, parking lot, town hall parking lot, and the community park for $12,640.10, which is only an increase of $574 from the county proposal, which was $12,065.20. So we're getting a lot more bang for our buck for that. So that has all been encumbered under our road program, so there won't be any additional funds requested for that. Brush collection is ongoing. We started on the east side of town on Monday, moving right along. Not so many piles as we've had in the past. Guys are almost done with the east side. Of course, we will go back to anybody that's missed because this is the week for east side. So anybody who has missed puts their brush out. We will be back. Next week, we'll jump over to the west side. We'll start with Westview Estates behind Town Hall and start working our way around. And anticipation, probably a week, maybe a week and a half on the west side, and we should be done with that program. I'd like to remind the public that Recycle Day is the first Saturday in October, October 2nd. That'll be at the community park as usual, 9 to 1. We will be collecting our usual items, tires, oils, e-waste, scrap metal, and batteries and light bulbs. However, the document shredding is going to be moved to the following week, Saturday, October 9th, at the park, because I could not get them to commit to the 2nd. So we're moving it to the 9th, which is probably better off because traffic can get quite heavy during that time. Maybe moving the shredding day to a different day is a better idea. So that's where we are in the service department, and I'd be glad to take any questions from the board.
Mark was kind enough to prepare a resolution at my request earlier today that I don't think that's circulated to the rest of the board. It is a resolution to call for no parking signs be installed on Spruce Run allotment on the first 300 feet west of South Hangtown. I'd like the board to take action on the next report to you now if you would like.
You did a resolution? There is one?
Yes, there is one, yes. Had a busy afternoon and I was not able to actually respond to Mark timely or to forward it to you. So I forwarded it just now. Janice, I don't know if you want to read this off. It's on my phone if you would care. No?
Oh.
I just emailed it to you.
Well, also move for discussion. So what's the background here?
The background is, and Ms. Mitchell can testify to this, there's ongoing issues with that portion of Spruce Run being used as a turnaround, a staging area for utility companies, the county. The township has been out and actually replanted, added soil, done grass to fix up those sides of the road, and it just comes right back. So one of the burdens of being a township trustee is all your neighbors lean on you. I'm getting leaned on pretty heavily by my neighbors to address this issue. So I want to do it properly and through township channels. So
I think there's a procedure also.
That was my next question. What's it legally?
We've done the no, you said, are there people parking there though?
people parking there, people staging there. They'll park cars there. They'll Ohio Edison will come out there. I'll see the county trucks out there weekly. I think it's a nice place for them to go and kill a couple hours, quite frankly.
So
This
they're
is
not
more of
leaving,
a spot. No
they're not
parking
leaving
lot.
vehicles.
Sometimes people are leaving vehicles there.
But
Sometimes.
if someone's in their vehicle, then technically they're not parked. It's standing.
Yeah.
Not parked. They're just sitting in it.
Right.
So I don't know. Are we legally allowed to put no parking signs up?
We put them up, you have to.
We had a procedure. We did it down in.
Well, if you were
Coffee
going to do
Meadows
an
days.
entire allotment, I'd request a traffic study, a parking lots or a parking study from the county.
Which we ran into down at Coffee
We've done
Meadows
that
few
a
years
couple
ago.
times. We did that on Bentley and we did it in Hillside allotment where the county came in and recommended where to put all the no parking signs. This is a one area to try to restrict parking at. So do we need to go through the county for that? I'm not sure we need to.
Probably not.
What's your
I mean,
recommendation?
it's our road.
Well, as Mr. Schulte said, we've been out there several times and have repaired the berm on this road. That was mainly because of the school buses were dropping the kids off on Hametown and the parents would come down and they'd pull off the side of the road and rut it all up. And then the owner would complain and then we'd go out and fix it. Well, since they've gone up the road, I haven't seen as much as they have in the past, but it still happens.
Who's going up the road? The school
The
buses?
buses, I'm
Oh,
sorry, the school
okay.
buses are going up Spruce Run now.
Okay.
So I don't see it as much as we have in the past, but it still occurs. So this is something that the residents are requesting that we prohibit parking.
Are all the residents there on Spruce Run requesting this?
According to
Yes.
Mr. Schulte, they are. Now, if you want something other than that, we have the authority to put no parking on our own roads.
Chief Meyer? Thoughts?
Well, we have the authority to put no parking signs. Well, we should do that. I think that's the way to go.
You know, how many feet?
The resolution says for 300 feet west of Hametown.
So a football field. I don't have an issue.
I don't think it's, it's kind of a non-event. Really,
Right.
just to do it at the end of the road.
Right.
Yeah, we're trying to protect the berm. People that park,
Yeah.
someone pulls up in their car to wait for someone and they're sitting, and they're not parked, right?
But now they're going up the hill, so maybe that doesn't happen.
You keep people from, you know. That's fine. Whatever you want. Propose it and see if there's a public response and do it at the next meeting.
Well, we have to post it for 30
Right.
days.
30 days is that what it is?
We have to post it for
Okay,
30
I
days.
thought there was something.
Yeah, it's like
Wait,
installing any new traffic control stop sign, something of that, we have to post it for 30 days in a local paper before they can be enforced. So
okay. If you want,
Do you want to have, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Do you want to have Ms. Marshall read the resolution before you vote?
I'm sorry, I would have printed a copy off and read it
Yeah, that'd be great.
myself, but
That's all right.
Can you do so, ma'am?
Sure. Resolution number -2021, establishing no parking signs in the Spruce Run allotment. Whereas the Board of Trustees of Copley Township may establish no parking areas within the township, and whereas the Board of Trustees wishes to safely regulate the flow of traffic, and whereas the residents of Spruce Run allotment have requested the installation of no parking signs in areas of its subdivision. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees instructs the Service Director to install no parking signs with the following provisions. Provision 1, parking shall be prohibited on Spruce Run Drive, both north and south sides from South Hametown Road 300 feet west. Provision 2, the no parking sign shall be installed in accordance with the Ohio Department of Transportation Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices specifications. Further, a copy of this resolution shall be published once in a newspaper of general circulation, and enforcement of the new signage shall take effect 30 days after the publication date in the newspaper. This would be number 96, 2021.
Any other discussion? Ms. Piper, recall the roll, please.
Trustee Dressler,
Don't we have to wait 30 days?
I think we do the resolution and post it for 30 days. Is that correct?
That's what the resolution says.
Yeah, we have to do the resolution and then post it.
I'm sorry.
You post it after the resolution?
Approve the resolution and then post it, or do you post it first and then vote on it?
I don't have the answer to
I
that.
think, I honestly believe it's you do the resolution and then post it. If there's an issue, send it.
If I had to think back to what we did at Hillside, we passed the resolution to have the traffic study done. I don't recall whether
I think you posted
it was done prior.
for people to comment before you take the action.
I know the resolution has to be in place in order for the signs to be enforceable. There's a
So then-
comment period. I'm sorry.
Well, let's do it that way. Let's just do it. Let's just post it for comment. And I'll table my motion. And then I'll make a motion to
Then what are you posting?
posting, you post signs there? How do you post it?
Well, I
For 30
mean,
days?
yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
How does that happen?
In a paper
Just
of
Oh.
local
a
circulation.
legal notice.
We put it on legal notice saying that this is what we're
We
going to do
proposed.
Understood.
before the signs can be enforced.
I thought there was a temporary sign you put up, but that sounds.
No, if we put signs
plausible.
up, we bag them. So they're there, but
Right.
they're covered. It's like a new stop sign too.
So then I'll make a motion that we advertise that we'd like to place no parking signs in accordance with that resolution.
That's fine.
I'm sorry.
Bring it on.
So what are you gonna put in the paper?
That the township wishes to,
Just an
just
advertisement.
an advertisement.
Proposed.
So
no parking.
we're not doing a resolution tonight.
No, I
we're
would
just-
table that.
Okay. We've tabled it?
No, I'm going to ask to table it.
Okay, so is it a motion to table the motion? The
No,
resolution?
I'm asking,
Oh.
I would like to table my motion. Do you have a second on tabling? Okay, so I'll call for the motion
To
to table.
Just check on it, what the requirement is, and we can. We have to pass them at the next meeting and we'll do it.
Yeah, I just want to table my motion to.
Because what happens
close the
is
parking
you have
signs.
to start over if
Right.
you don't post it.
So I'm going to call for the vote, call for the motion to table posting the no parking signs. That's the vote I'm calling for. Homer, yes.
I don't know what you just said.
I'm tabling, I want to table the motion to. put
There's
the
a
signs up.
motion, the motion is to advertise that we are proposing no parking signs on Spruce Run, west of Hametown Road, 300 feet on both sides. That's the motion, proposing to post no parking signs.
Yes, that's the motion currently on the floor. I want to table that and move.
No, that's my motion. To propose the signs. We're not passing a resolution. The post.
But we already had a motion on the resolution.
Right. We already have
We
that.
had a motion and a second on the resolution.
That's what I'm
So now
asking
we
to
have
table.
to do something with the resolution.
Then let's call the wrong vote no.
That's a
You
good
don't know.
idea, because then we can.
Don't say that, please. Okay, the
Wasn't
motion,
supposed to be this hard.
the motion is,
It's not.
There's a
It's
motion.
just that
yeah, we have to do it right.
there's some procedures on traffic control.
Absolutely.
You got to follow them. That's all. People are
Yeah.
entitled to notice.
And we had
So
an
if you
issue,
don't follow the notice, it stalls it anyway.
and we had an issue
I don't
with
know, we
Copy
get
Meadows
probably-
some time ago, and I don't want to fall into that trap again.
Why don't we just withdraw the motion for the resolution?
Well,
Can we do
I'll
that?
change my language from,
Can we just withdraw the resolution motion?
Yeah, that's fine. We don't
Wanna do
vote
that?
on it.
okay, that's what I would try, that's what I said the
Let's
first
just
time.
withdraw it. Let's just. say
Withdraw my
we
motion.
get it.
Now,
Was
that's
that
withdrawn.
like a song?
I make a motion. I'm gonna hit you with this hammer. It's,
Advertise.
I'm making a motion to advertise for the placement of the signs in accordance with what you just read.
David Firestein said yes, withdraw the motion.
Thanks, David.
Okay.
So I have a motion to advertise for the placement of the signs in that 300-foot corridor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay. I'll call for the motion. Polner, yes.
Joseph, yes.
Sophie will abstain.
We will put that together.
I don't want anything self-serving, right?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Falling into a rut here, gentlemen.
If you proposed.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want it to happen, but
Okay, Mr. Mitchell, you're back up. Anything else? Anything further for Mr. Mitchell? Sit down quick, sir. Thank
We're
you.
gonna miss you.
Well, before you.
Mr. Klein.
Boy.
Mr. Klein, all jest aside, I'm going through your resolution list here, and a majority of them have to do with the removal or raising of structures in several locations. As the chair, I would ask you that you talk about all of them in general, and then we'll ask specific questions. Meaning, how did your office come to the resolution that you want to raise these structures, and what steps you went through to get us to that point?
Sure. Absolutely. Thank you. So the first resolution and the ones before it are a result of inspections conducted over the last couple months and with some of these properties over the last couple of years by our code enforcement officer. So due to the pandemic, we did not raise any structures last year in 2020. So there's a little bit of a backlog. A lot of these properties that are here before you tonight are properties that we would have likely have moved forward with demolition last year. So to my point, we have been working on these for quite a few years, some of them specifically. So our code enforcement officer, in conjunction with the Summit County Health Department, have determined that these properties are uninhabitable, and we have the supporting letters from Summit County Health Departments for all the property here before you tonight. Those have been done by them. They've done inspections and wrote letters of support for the demolition. We have posted notice of violations. That's how these initially got started. There's been no response or no counteraction by the property owner. So the request tonight is to move forward with the demolitions. We'll go through the proper procedure outlined in Ohio Revised Code Section 505. We will do the title search. All interested parties or with name on the property will be notified. They have the right to a public hearing. They've got to give notice to the fiscal officer to establish a public hearing to contest the demolition. So we will put all that information in the notice that will be posted if you approve these tonight. Like I said, we'll go through the proper bidding process to get quotes for demolition, similar to as we've followed in previous years. So this will be my first time working through a demolition, but I have the utmost confidence in our code enforcement officer and the staff in our department who has done this successfully numerous times. So does that provide?
Yes, I have a couple questions / comments.
Okay.
Being that this is your first time around doing this as well. Are you enlisting the aid of the legal counsel?
Yes. So we actually have worked with legal counsel in preparation of these resolutions and making sure that we are crossing our T's and dotting our I's and making sure that we're following Section 505 of the revised code. So if we approve these tonight, we will definitely engage legal counsel to make sure that we are following the procedures. Because if the property owners or a family or a party involved will contest this, then we will probably have to engage legal counsel and make sure that we're following the proper procedure with hearings and so forth.
My next question is, are you going to give us your insurance that these dwellings are not inhabited?
Yes, I would assume that we will probably do some inspections through the bidding process for the demolitions, and we'll make sure that obviously no one's in the structures. Our code enforcement officer, Mr. Newman, obviously also a part-time police officer, has enlisted the services of the police department quite often when doing these inspections. So we will likely bring somebody additional along before we move forward with any of these properties.
And the last would be, will you give us your insurance that they'll be inspected, that they're not inhabited at the moment of destruction?
Yes. absolutely. So again, we'll probably be on site, work with the contractor for the demolition to ensure that.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. So again, the first resolution is ordering the removal of structure located at 1135 Shockalaw Road. I have some site photos if you are interested in those for the property. And again, we will follow all the procedures outlined in section 505 of the Ohio Revised Code.
So moved.
Second. Any other discussion? Ms. Piper, call the roll, please.
Trustee Dressler?
Yes.
Trustee Palmer?
Yes.
Trustee Schulte?
Yes.
Thank you. My next resolution is a resolution ordering the removal of structure located at 1521 Lakeland Avenue.
So move, Coleman.
Second, Dressler.
Any other discussion?
More pictures?
Yes.
Pictures.
And we've received substantial grants over the years also. And really, there's been a lot of money. It's something we focused on that really
In most of
helps all of the residential adjacent areas.
And most of these, the ones before you tonight, have received numerous complaints from adjacent property owners. That's how they really get started. And so, I think they would be very happy to see. I mean, it's also a safety, standpoint. If no one is really inhabiting.
Ms. Piper, call the roll, please.
Trustee Dressler?
Yes.
Trustee Palmer?
Yes.
Trustee Schulte?
Yes.
The next request is a resolution ordering the removal of a structure located at 1618 Maryland.
You have photos for that, sir?
So moved.
Second. Had a hell of a basement fire in this one. Yeah. That's sad. This one, I was just mentioning to Mr. Schulte that we had a basement fire in this one, and we saved the structure, and they put a bunch of effort into restoring it.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah, it's-
been 20 or 15
Yeah,
years ago.
that's
What's
kind
the
of the
address?
structures.
Maryland, down there by the,
The corner right.
Chief Bauer, you don't have to mention to Mr. Logden, he made a excellent stop on that fire to no avail eventually. Yeah.
So you've gotten several complaints about this one as well, I think, Maryland.
Yeah, so that's just adjacent to some of the greenhouses down there, which also we've been working on. There's some issues with property maintenance going just
Right.
adjacent to that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for that as well. Ms. Piper, you call the roll, please.
Let's stop for a minute. On the resolution numbers, Janice, are
Mhm.
we freeing up 96?
Yeah, we're not using 96.
Okay. So that will be,
Shockalaw was 96.
okay. And then 97 is
1521 Lakeland was 97.
And then 98 is Maryland.
1618 Maryland.
Okay. Trustee Dressler?
Yes.
Trustee Coleman?
Yes.
Trustee Schulte?
Yes.
Thank you. My next request is a resolution ordering the removal of the structure located at 1772 Lakeland Avenue. Photos from as well.
So move.
Second, Schulte.
This property is actually at the end of Lakeland Avenue on an unmaintained portion of it. And it's very close to two residential properties that, obviously are inhabited. And you can't see it when it's in full growth. You can't even see the property from the road. So in those pictures, they're taken in winter, but if you drive back there now, you can't even tell there's a structure back there. So it's a real safety concern for those residents.
I mean, commonly, they're just abandoned, inherited by
A lot of them inherited.
town, and there's just no interest in.
Any discussion?
That's number 99.
Ms. Piper, call the roll, please.
Trustee Dressler?
Yes.
Trustee Colner?
Yes.
Trustee Schulte?
Yes.
Thank you. And the last one is a resolution ordering the removal of the structure located at 2291 Wright Road.
So move, Colner.
Second.
Any discussion? We'll give us a minute to look at the photos. Any discussion? Ms. Pfeiffer, call the roll, please.
Trustee Dressler?
Yes.
Trustee Colner?
Yes.
Trustee Schulte?
Yes.
Thank you. My next request is a resolution approving an increase to blanket certificate number 1, 2021 in the amount of 35,700 to cover additional costs associated with nuisance property abatement. So this request is to increase the original blanket we established for the nuisance property fund, an additional 35,700. This would be what was permanently appropriated to cover those costs previously approved tonight in the resolution.
So move, Schulte.
Second.
Discussion? Was this in, was this the amount placed in our March budgeting?
Yes.
Any other discussion? Ms. Pfeiffer, call the roll, please.
Trustee Dressler?
Yes.
Trustee Colner?
Yes.
Trustee Schulte?
Yes.
Thank you. My next request is a resolution approving a blanket certificate in the amount of $3,500 to cover costs associated with the Taste of Copley Circle event. So as discussed in previous meetings, I said I'd like to be coming to you requesting some assistance for the promotion and organization of that event to spotlight those new and existing businesses in and around Copley Circle. The request is for dollars to assist with materials, restrooms, tents, and music for the event, just general organization of it. We've been working with those businesses in and around the circle that I mentioned, and they are contributing funds and sponsoring the event as well. So it's going to be a great collaborative effort, but at least for the necessities I would like to see at the circle, that's what the request is for tonight.
So move, Schulte.
Second.
Any discussion?
When is the date? Do we have a date?
16th of
October
October.
16th.
I'm going to vote no for it in case, keep trying to move it around where I'm going to be in town. Any other discussion? Okay. Ms. Pfeiffer, call the roll, please.
That'll be resolution number 102. Trustee Dressler?
Yes.
Trustee Colner?
Yes.
Trustee Schulte?
Yes.
Do you want the this pay attention to?
Yes, and the last request, again, is relatively new. I don't believe we had it in, just add this today. So is resolution approving a purchase order to CESO, that is a consultant that is doing the current preliminary engineering associated with Sunset Drive, in the amount of $14,000 to cover costs associated with the traffic impact study. So this is a result of our discussions at the last meeting about making sure that Sunset Drive is now a through road. That obviously impacts the traffic impact study and will likely, require the need for one. In addition to that, CESO submitted a traffic impact questionnaire to the Summit County Engineer's Office. And based on those preliminary findings, it was determined that a traffic study would be needed. So when we approved the original $79,000 for CESO, this was an additional item. We weren't sure if we would need it based on the circumstances with the connection to Cleveland Massillon, with potential uses there. But now that has been discussed, it will require a need for traffic impact study. So this is an additional cost associated with that. But if we do want to have the road through there and we don't necessarily know what certain uses are going to go in that property right now, the engineer's office will require a traffic impact study for the impacts to Cleveland Massillon.
So move, Schulte.
Second Dressler. Okay. Any other discussion? Ms. Pfeiffer, call the roll, please.
That'll be resolution 103. Trustee Dressler?
Yes.
Trustee Colner?
Yes.
Trustee Schulte?
Yes.
Thank you. And just two quick updates on capital projects. The adult fitness facility community development block grant has been submitted to Summit County, so they have received it. So I will keep you apprised if we are awarded those funds. I'm very hopeful of that. So, and lastly, we have an upcoming Trail Advisory Committee meeting. So this is the second meeting. This will be held on Thursday, September 23rd at 6 p.m. here in the North Room, as well as virtually. So we'll be sending out more information on that very shortly.
Can you tell me that date again? I'm sorry.
Sorry, September 23rd, Thursday?
At 6?
Yes. We'll be there. And lastly, just on the monthly report, I think it's on the next slide. Not much to report. 17 permits processed up to from July, and then the total valuation is $1.65 million. So we had several of the attached units, I believe, Meadows of, it used to be Copley Meadows, but it's changed. The Ryan Homes attached units out on the east side of town. So that's what spiked the cost or the valuation. And I would like to add one final thing, which is a request for executive session to discuss potential land acquisition.
Any questions for Mr. Klein? I have one, sir. The Trails and Pathway Committee meeting, I'm sure you gave them some tasks or goals that we're looking for. Is one of them looking for funding as well? Or will they be part of that procedure?
Yeah, absolutely.
Grants and such?
One of the big topics of discussion in the first meeting was outlining the different state, federal, and local funding sources available. And so, Dan Rice is on the committee as well. He's got a wealth of knowledge on the funding sources and what would be suited best. So I think definitely what my hope is to outline all the different projects that we've talked about at the next meeting, and then to begin to prioritize those. And then within that, I will identify the best funds available, the best funding sources available for each project. Some projects, internal park projects or linear trail projects on roadways, qualify for certain funds. So we're going to identify those in-house, and then the committee will be able to, discuss and target which ones to go for and outline, deadlines and so forth.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for Mr. Klein? Okay, thank you, sir. Any old business? I have one. Do you have some?
No, I don't.
Okay. I have one thing. I'm sure the other board members are realizing we've been receiving dozens, probably well over 100 emails now about people wishing the township to move forward with a partnership with some agency about broadband communications. Just to reiterate for public knowledge, 2 meetings now, the board has acknowledged that and voted to move forward with investigating a partnership, primarily with the county and maybe other agencies around. So just, I mentioned it because if I answered each one of those emails, I would be out of time each day. So I can't answer them all. We're getting so many. Apparently somebody's put out a website saying this is how you can easily answer or voice your opinion to the trustees, which is fine. I'm not going to, I think that's great. Send your opinion, get involved. I appreciate it. But just so the public knows, we are investigating. It's going to be some time, as Mr. Schulte mentioned, before the county finds out if they're, 1, going to move forward with it, 2, how much it's going to cost. And then the third leg of that will be, can we afford to participate? But that's, we're certainly moving forward on that. That's the only thing I had for old business. Anybody else have any old business? Meeting dates. I'm sorry, it's on my thing here. New business, anything for new business?
The only thing I have is request to officially dedicate October 30th as Halloween in the Park at Copley Community Park, and trick or treat on October 31st.
So moved.
Second, Schulte.
You do trick or treat 5 to 8.
Chief, is it 5 to 7 or trick or treat? 5 to 7.
5 to 7.
2 hours.
And Halloween in the Park is noon, 2 to 4? 2 to 4:30.
Okay. I'll call for the motion.
Joseph, yes.
Colner, yes.
Schulte, yes.
Any other new business?
I do have a request to move the September 28th board meeting. We move it to the week before or the week after.
We have a problem with that because we gave that date to fire department for their swearing in. There's a lot of families coming in that date.
Okay.
That would cause you some discomfort, right, Chief?
And we live with it and do my best to adjust my schedule.
Okay. Apologize.
If you have to miss them, then
Yeah, but
it's up to you.
I understand. That'd be one that hard to miss too.
all
I
right.
understand the schedule come up, but there's a lot of families coming in for that, I would assume. And I wanted to discuss that too, that are we going to plan to move the meeting downstairs? We'll open the meeting in the fire base.
Yeah. Yeah. So, based on previous discussion, tentative plans between you and Ms. Marshall, I didn't want to make sure that the board was still comfortable starting at 1,800 hours down in the base. Yeah. You can, during the meeting, do the swearing ceremony and regular time.
We did that for police.
Yeah,
So you want to start the meeting
Yeah.
at
6 o'clock. Does the time of the meeting give
Yeah,
you?
it's okay. It's all right. I'll see if I can adjust my schedule.
Okay,
to be here.
sorry.
I'll do it. It's okay.
All right. Along with that, I have 2 dates, the second meeting in October and the second meeting in November. One, I'm going to be out of town on business, and the other one, I'm going to be out of town on pleasure. So either we can move them or,
Wow, Jimmy squeezes you and then he comes back with his
Yeah, yeah.
request. Nice guy.
You know? Take that,
Well,
Schulte.
Timing, that's the advantage of being the chair, huh?
there you have it.
Feel sorry, Jim. By the way, I need off the next.
What a guy, Bruce.
Sorry.
Are you gonna miss the entire week of the October 26th?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's not the 26th. It is October, the 2nd, or the 4th is the
Is
26th.
it the whole week you're not good? You can't move it to a different day?
No, I apologize. I misread the calendar. I will be here in October. The 12th. I have to go out of town the week of the 16th, and I misread the calendar. I apologize.
So it's good and bad.
Yeah,
So,
but November,
November 23rd is the week of Thanksgiving.
and that is the 4th. I apologize.
You're okay, both?
I'm okay both.
All right, never
Sorry.
mind.
We would have accommodated.
What I
you.
did was I
Unlike
adjusted
you-
my
unlike-
schedule.
Right.
Unlike you
I-
accommodating me, we would have
He
accommodated.
just single-handedly
What's that, Brian?
squashed you, Jim. Hey, Jim, he single-handedly squashed you. He was like waiting, hoping.
I had that written down for weeks now. That was gonna be an issue.
Okay.
I got a hearing aid, now I'm dealing with dementia, so. I forgot my hearing aid. That's the dementia part. Okay, any other new business? Any correspondence? Ms. Pfeiffer, any correspondence?
no.
Any business from the floor? Okay, I will make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss the hiring of personnel in the service department, to benefits of employment in all departments, to discuss employment of personnel in the fire department, and for possible land acquisition.
So move, second Schulte.
Any discussion? Ms. Pfeiffer, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Dressler?
Yes.
Trustee Palmer?
Yes.
Trustee Schultz?
Yes.
We'll recess for 5 minutes. I don't think so.
No, no, no.